Okay. I think this is probably okay. Ta-da! It's me! C'est moi! Okay. Don't mind me, I'm just not checking my phone. Alright. Uh.
Hey!
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool.
How do I sound to you?
Pretty good.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
I haven't. I'm starting the stream now. I wanted to make sure we connected okay first.
I should have waited, but I didn't. So.
No, that's cool. I just for some reason, I have to very frequently adjust my exposure, because otherwise it'll just be like it's either too bright or not bright enough, depending on
Yeah.
if I'm going colors or if I'm doing inks, because of the way that the screen lights up. I don't know. It's a whole thing. It's not that interesting.
It makes sense though. You know, just it being a camera and needing to change based off of what it's looking at.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
Sounds annoying.
Let's see. This is the big draw, number 12 or no 11, I think. Let me check. You're on the big draw.
Woo!
Okay, hold on. I don't want to have any interesting conversation until I set up.
Okay.
Don't say anything interesting.
I bought
yet.
spinach recently.
Oh, what did I just tell you?
It's not interesting. It's not even good spinach. It's just whatever.
First of all, how dare you?
Spinach is good. This was not. It was just whatever. It's average mundane spinach.
Listen, there's nothing that algorithmically is as popular right now as the conversation surrounding mundane spinach. Okay, so we're live.
We're live.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am stupendous. I am
stupendous. Okay. Slow down there, buddy. Alright, you don't need to show off.
Showing off the state of how well I'm doing, or showing off my grammar?
We can't all be happy, okay? We can't all be doing stupendous.
How's your man doing? How's your boy?
He's good. He's okay. So he gets really stressed out by his job, and it's not because his job is more stressful than it normally is. It's just that, like, there's this sort of feeling that he has that he can't shake, that at any moment he could just get fired. And every time they give him new responsibilities because they like him, that little feeling just sort of vibrates a little bit. Just like, yep, this is it. This is the time. So he's been shaking that off a bit. Like, they want him doing some video stuff. He's because he's supposed to be doing technical writing, so he's working out with this manuscript instruction manual for a thing, and part of that involves some degree of, like, and a video that goes with it, and he's doing that now too, which is pretty cool. I think it's great. He might be traveling for them soon, and so like I think it all looks really good. But what if it's not?
Yeah, but what if it isn't?
I'm really excited for him. I think this whole thing is just been going really great, and they seem like a really good group of people to be working with. Like a lot of really kind coworkers. I got to meet them at their holiday party, and they're just really nice.
That's awesome. That's great. How long?
Yeah.
So how long has he been there?
I think he's meet the 6-month mark. So not very long.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's great.
Yeah.
Congrats.
I will do that. How about you? How's Malka? How's life?
She's doing great. She's been really like. Can you hear that? Can you hear my cat in the background just messing about, shuffling bags and playing with cords?
I hear the bags.
Yeah, he went from like being really afraid of me when he first moved in to now constantly craving my attention, which is very sweet.
Velcro cat.
But Velcro cat?
Yeah, you've got a Velcro cat. I'm sorry.
What does it? Explain that, please.
Well, like Velcro, he's just attached to you. You're his favorite.
Yeah. Honestly, Malka is his favorite, but when she's not around, he's like, "Pet me, feed me."
Yeah, my boyfriend's cat's the same way. Dante's not as needy. He's just on my ottoman behind me right now, sleeping. But my cat Tyrant is just like, it's constant. You might hear him start. Yeah, you might hear him start to yell at me soon. Like at some point, it's like clockwork, really.
I gotta say, these are amazing names for cats.
They are. Dante was named that already at the shelter, and Will was like, well, it's both literary. It didn't sound right for a second. Literary and a video game, which is perfect for me, because I like both those things, so he kept it. I found Tyrant in a dumpster, and it was like, well, you're gonna ruin my life, so here we go.
Oh, damn, yeah, you find a cat in a dumpster, you gotta... That's something, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I it's funny, because it feels like a very frequent thing that a cat is just found, and then it becomes your cat.
It's true.
With dogs, it's like very premeditated, like you have to, like, talk to the government or something. And they're like, may I please have dog? And they're like, are you good enough to have dog? And then they question your friends and your family, and they like get a urine sample and stuff. And with a cat, they're like, yeah, if you find him in the trash, just don't eat him. You know?
That's kind of true. Gotta get your mother's maiden name settled in there and just make sure it's not a dog scam.
Yeah.
It's really a bunch of dogs trying to get your information. They're cheating you. They're smart.
It's like, you ever watch 30 Rock?
No.
There's a scene where he's going over. One of the characters grew up in like a really bad neighborhood, and he's been suppressing it for years, and he finally just starts talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things he's remembering, he's like, "Oh my God!" He's like, "A pack of wild dogs took over and successfully ran a 7-Eleven."
That's good. Oh man, I think animals, like, honestly, are. It's such a strange thing, isn't it, that we get so attached to a creature? Like, I'm here for it. I love dogs. Don't get me wrong. I love cats. But if you think about it, just like being, I am man. I make tools. I do things. Having just this little dude that doesn't do jack shit sitting on my couch, and if it dies, I will like explode. I will die.
Yeah.
It's such a vulnerability. This is how the aliens are going to get us. They're going to get us with something cute.
Yeah, why do you think that is? I mean, if you're looking at it, it seems like you're looking at it from like a very evolutionary standpoint.
A little bit.
And I think that's fair. So like, what do you think it is that makes us want to have pets?
I think it's the same thing that makes us want to have stuffed animals as a kid. Except it's, obviously it's not that shallow, like we have a deep connection with dogs. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if I could say that we all have a deep connection with cats. I have a connection with this one cat.
Sure.
And Dante. Dante's kind of. But like I think with dogs, they evolved with us, and so there's a bit of that, empathy there. Like they understand when we say we're sorry because we stepped on their toes. Where is my frame? I'm trying to find a tool and I can't find it. I'm looking right at it. I'm looking. Yes, I am. Okay. You know, they get us when they're smart enough to get us. They get us. But like cats, why do we have cats? They eat the mouse and then they go do something else, and then maybe they're crazy attached to you. It's just such a wide variety of connection between them all. Their position in my home is confusing, but I don't want him to leave, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I understand that completely. Where you're like, I don't know what it is, but I like having you around, and if you weren't around, I'd be upset.
Like, what do you even do? What do you do?
Yeah, because with dogs, you can at least be like, well, you know, for thousands of years, they were like hunting for us and with us. So they were like really like, we have a very clear symbiosis. But with cats, it's like, I don't know, look at him. He's hilarious.
Yeah, he's a little guy. Look, he's sleeping. He's the same as he always is. It's great.
You know, and also something I've noticed about cat owners is that it's like something funny that and this is before I ever had a cat, which has only been a few months or 2 months really, that with cat owners, they're like, it's like cat does anything and they're like, oh my god, like a cat is just sitting there, they're like, he's so cute, you know. I mean, dog owners kind of do the same thing, but with dog owners it's like dogs having funny behaviors type thing. When cat owners, it's like the cat can literally just be sleeping and they're like, look at him, look at him, look at how beautiful. And I think there's something about, honestly, so in my diving into medieval history, you might find this really interesting.
Okay, I'm in. Yeah.
Medieval people, like in the Dark Ages, absolutely adored cats.
I believe that.
Like they just were obsessed with them. They loved it. They were like, there's so many cats in medieval paintings and stuff, and just it's like they just they couldn't suppress their love of cats. That's why they show up a lot in medieval art, and they had a lot of dogs too. But dogs were like hunting animals, but it was just everybody just like. People in the Middle Ages, it was just like fun to just have a cat. Like cats were like indoor animals. You would keep them in your house. You would have them hang out at your shops, and just, you know, and they were just very like beloved as like beautiful things. And it's almost like the aesthetics of cats people like, you know, because they're very pretty little animals. They have like pretty faces, you know. But what do you think?
I think it's like having a jester in your house. Like, he's the only one who can call you, like, horrible names and get away with it. But then you reward him afterwards because he was a good little guy. He may have gotten into the chicken bones of your trash can and made a mess, and now you have to clean that up. But also, he purrs sometimes, and that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me. I need some Fisherman's Friend.
I was very annoyed recently because there was a post on Instagram that was repeating this bullshit urban myth that's been completely debunked.
Utterly destroyed.
And people are still reposting it, which drives me crazy. Is like historical misinformation that people don't even research. They just go, "Oh, I believe," you know.
Yeah.
I believe that happened. It was someone posted this whole thing about like, did you know in the 15th century the church said that cats were spawns of Satan and they killed thousands of cats, which is what caused the Black Plague because there were no cats to kill all the rats. Which is like.
No.
literally never any. There's never been any purge of cats in history. I remember, like, I actually left a comment, and I don't usually leave comments because I was like, guys, I was like, Google this. It's like a bunch of historians have been like, yeah, this is. There's never been any society that just killed their cats for no reason, and it certainly wasn't the Western society. But they were like. And also it was hilarious because there were so many things wrong with the post. I was like, also the Black Plague did not happen in the 15th century. It was like 200 years before that. It's like the Black Plague was not caused by rats. It was caused by fleas.
They actually think it might be ticks now too.
Yeah, I heard that recently, that they're like, it's just more and more insects and less, and like this one historian, I forgot her name. She has like a really long German name. She keeps hashtagging about the Black Plague, like hashtag rats did nothing wrong. But yeah, it just drove me nuts because it was like something that's like clearly been debunked, and people are still like posting it for just views.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what it is that bugs me about that. I guess because history, I think, is super important, and like when people just make shit up and or they don't research it, I was just like, oh, that's so. It's so bothersome. Anyways, it's not
It is bothersome though. But no, that's the thing though. Like, maybe the topic itself specifically isn't as important, but I think it as a concept that is happening in social media and amongst the populace is really important. That's super bad. Like, there's this sort of trend of ignoring or rewriting or disrespecting something that happened in history, and now there's a bunch of people who believe the twisted version of it. And this is for things as small as whether or not the Egyptians used ground up beetles for their makeup, or who made pasta first. But it gets bigger and heavier. There's an entire group of people in the next generations who don't believe Helen Keller was a real person.
Oh my God, seriously? Why?
And it started as a joke on TikTok, and as everything that starts as a joke on the internet, people started to believe it. So now teachers have to deal with that. No, she was real. She really did get her pilot's license. She really did do these things. It's just, yes, we know there's a play about her.
It's also one of the reasons it's so scary is because it makes you realize how quickly we can just lose the truth.
Oh, it's easy.
Like how easy it is. Something I forgot. Who was it? Thomas Jefferson who said that any society, no matter how stable it is always one generation away from collapse. Like, all you need to do is just make people dumb for like one generation, and it's like no matter how high up your society is all it takes.
Yep.
Oh, hey, what's up, Taco Force? How you doing, man?
Taco Force. I love that name.
I know, it's really funny.
It's like a Saturday morning cartoon where it's about like super fighting fast food people. Yeah. So it's Taco Force. We have Burrito Supreme fighting off against the evil Dr. Broccoli. I don't know. They probably wouldn't want to make the broccoli the bad guy though.
I would.
I would too, but that's because it would be funny. But it's a Saturday morning cartoon. They'd be mad at you. The censors would be mad at you because we can't make broccoli a bad thing. The kids won't want it.
Yeah, the kids already don't want it.
Yeah.
They'll relate.
I never got that. I loved broccoli as a kid.
Yeah, oh really? Wow. Yeah, it was getting me to eat vegetables was like I was a strict no-go on vegetables. It was very hard.
Yeah, my sister too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it just you like the taste of like vegetables? You like that like slightly bitter taste?
It depended on the vegetable. I still won't eat green beans. Hate them. Terrible. Bad vegetable. I used to hate Brussels sprouts, but they're good now. And also, I'm an adult and I can enjoy them. But also, they're good now. I guess they bred the bitterness out of them, which is cool. But I've always been pretty good about my veggies. I don't know. I kind of understand why it is some people don't. Like, I certainly know some grown-ass adults who still struggle to eat them. It's not a judgment, I promise. I'm not judging. But I don't know, the older I get, the more appealing they are. And I don't know, I'm starting to want to have a wider variety of them in my diet, which is probably a really good thing because I'm not the healthiest, so maybe I should lean into that.
In what way are you not the healthiest? You just eat a lot of takeout or something?
Oh, no, I'm just generally, I'm kind of overweight. Actually, I'm more than kind of overweight. Like, I'm at least 100 pounds over. I'm fairly sedentary, just being, an artist who then has to drive somewhere where I teach, where I sit down. So having a shift in my diet where I'm eating more fairly low calorie things is probably a really good idea.
Before I respond to that, the chat, Miguel says, who is on?
Uh-huh.
I'll tell you who is on. Your favorite from the chat, GrossGiirl.
It's me!
She is. Are you streaming at the same time, Gigi?
I am, and it seems to still be an excellent connection. Last night, it was breaking up. It was really, really annoying. But we're good.
Apparently they can't hear you. Here, guys, I cranked up the volume. How's that? Is that better?
Is it because I'm quiet? Wait.
No, I think it's my OBS. I had to raise the
their desktop volume.
Yeah, I keep having to adjust it because then when like Dan is on, his microphone is so thunderously booming
Really?
that I often have to bring it down. Otherwise, it sounds like he's the voice of God and I'm like a mouse.
That's funny. He's quiet on his own stream. Like,
well, sometimes on his stream, he literally just turns off his mic and then he'll just like not turn it back on.
No, I mean, like, when he's talking, it just sounds like he's 30 feet away.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there's a volume setting on Google Chat, like there is on Discord, that can be adjusted individually, but I'm looking at it, and it seems like that's not the case, which to me, in this day and age, is 2025. Why don't they have that? Why don't they have this? I should be able to turn you down.
Which thing?
So on Discord, and I think you can probably do this on other chats like this, but now that I'm saying that out loud, I'm not completely certain if you can or can't. But you can go to the people individually in your chat that you're talking to and change their volume individually for you.
Oh, yeah.
Which is what I thought was your problem. But now that I'm looking at the UI here, I see now that you can't do that. So clearly you're right, it's OBS.
Yeah, I mean, with me, I knew it was my fault right away on this game.
Is that your go-to? It's my fault. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
It almost always is. When I'm having technical issues, I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. I don't know what I'm doing. So every time that there's technical issues, it's like, okay, there is a 70 to 80% chance that this is just Ryan forgot to do this thing because he's a boomer. And it turns out it's true. I am a boomer.
Really?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not really not a literal baby boomer.
I was gonna say, like, you're not that old. You're like my parents are, what is it, Gen X? I think is between us and boomers in the
yeah, boomers are like in their 60s, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm 38. I'm almost there.
Yeah. Well, not really.
I mean, technologically speaking, I'm like kind of a boomer because it's just like I don't know. I think when you and I first met and you were helping me out setting up my stuff, I remember having to confide in you that I was like, listen, I'm far less competent with this than most people of my generation. I just missed that part of growing up where you like, get past your parents technologically.
Oh yeah.
Miguel, right. Yes, Miguel. I am a millennial. It's true.
I think you're just like healthily not chronically online. So
yeah.
I would take pride in the fact that you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. Jokes aside, I'm not really that insecure about it. I just, it's more like I just like to brace people if they think I'm going to be like, because it's like, oh, you're a streamer. It's like, no, I'm not. I am a golden retriever who pushed the wrong.
There you go. I can help you touch grass, but I cannot help you change the volume.
And it's
Turn
like,
the ball, please.
Like, and you're right. A big part of why I'm not good at this stuff is because, oh bless you, is because.
Sorry, I got a cough.
In my late teens and early 20s, I was like, living the Giga Chad life and just like playing sports and stuff, and there was like a whole, and like and I was always a dork, but I was like still like. I was a dork from like the 70s. I was like reading dime store fantasy novels and stuff, and like people around me were like, hey, you ever play World of Warcraft? I'm like, what's that?
Changed your life for the worst.
Dude, but I'm honestly grateful because if I had started gaming at that age, I had no sense of proportion. I would have just become an obsessive gamer. It would have ruined my life.
My dad saved me from that.
Yeah?
Yeah. So when I was a kid and I finally started getting like my own like birthday money and stuff, after moving to California, and there was like a big media boom, so like kids are all into Pokemon and they're all into, the internet, Neopets is huge, whatever. We had a PlayStation 2 and I liked to use my money to go buy video games, and sometimes my dad would take me to Target for that. Sometimes I go to the local game store. We had a place called the Game Exchange that I really liked a lot, but they're dead now. Actually, they might not be. I don't know what they're doing. Anyway, so we went to Target, and I'm looking to buy a video game, and I look at the shelf of games, and I see there's the really cool paintings for like World of Warcraft and a bunch of other stuff, and I see one, I'm like, oh, that's cool artwork. I don't know what that is. Hey, Dad, can I get that one? And he looks at it, and he looks at me, and he says, absolutely not. And I said, okay. It was EVE Online, which was, it's like, if you go to EVE Online, it's not like starting a video game, it's like getting a visa to enter a country. Like, it's, they have a documentable and studied economy. Either I would have wasted my money because I would have been too bored to get into it, or I would have been sucked in and fatter than I am now. A different person. And when I got older and I eventually learned about what the game was, I remembered this memory and this moment, and I thought, wow, my dad had to know what that was.
Yeah, that he was like, nope, this will literally ruin you.
Mm-hmm. He used to play some games and stuff too, so like it would make sense to me if he at least was aware of it.
Wow. Yeah, I get that. I really do. I worry about that with, like, you know, if I have kids, like what it's going to be like to have to navigate, you know.
Oh yeah.
Like making sure that, because I don't want to deprive them of things that are awesome, but I also am like, you got to go outside. You're going to have to do things outside.
Yep.
And I know that that's like a kind of a big problem right now. Is a lot of kids. It's like, you know, it's like you get so much stimulation from this stuff. Like, how on earth are you going to be like, let's go for a hike, Timmy? He's like, no. You know, like, it's just, there's so much. There's so much the internet can offer that's so satisfying.
It's true.
To a young brain that's still developing. That it's like, but yeah, no. If I had discovered the things that are on the internet, not just the sexy things on the internet, but just things on the internet, like distractions. Like, if I had a smartphone, I probably never would have done. I don't know. I don't think I would have, like. I probably wouldn't even be drawing. I probably would just be like, I would be just some guy who games all day and like. You know, I'm so glad. Like, I didn't get into gaming until like 3-4 years ago, and it was kind of the right age because it's like I have so many responsibilities that it's like there's a limit to how much I can ruin myself gaming, but also at the same time, having said that, I still play kind of a lot. You know, like but I treat it like a lunch break. You know.
Yeah, I mean that's how you should. It's healthy.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, I'm eating lunch, you know, because you and I, we both know we work from home. So we know what that's like, where you're like, okay, I'm going to take a break for like a half hour. But I'm not going to get sucked into my phone. I'm going to just, you know, whatever.
Yep, and then you blink, and it's been 3 hours.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're me, and there's like a very marked change in the day when it's like, okay, I got to pick up Malka from work. It's like that keeps me accountable to like, okay, I got to make sure I get a little more work done before I leave the house at like 4:45 to get her.
If I pick her up and she thinks I didn't do anything, she won't be proud of me, and then I don't get my goodnight kiss.
It's true. That's exactly the currency we use.
I think the greatest lesson my parents ever taught me, and part of this was incidental, but certainly a lot of it was purposeful too, was just being bored. Like, just be allowed to be bored. Like, my dad used to say, just go learn to play with yourself. Not like that, but go learn to play with yourself. And those were kind of his own exact words. Like, he used to joke about that, and I used to be like, I don't know what that means, Dad.
I don't want to know, Dad.
Father. Papa.
Father.
I wish not to learn how to play jacks or solitaire. How about you come play with me? No. I'm busy. Go be bored. But it was
That's
true.
Cool,
it works though, yeah.
Look at the healthy imagination you have.
I know. I used to do like a lot of comics and stuff when I was a kid. I wasn't a Captain Underpants kid, unfortunately. Maybe fortunately for my parents, but I would have been. But I definitely got into doing like a lot of like, what if I draw my own comics? I don't know how to animate. I didn't really even understand if I wanted to do that yet. I just sort of liked drawing a lot. and this is kind of like cartoons, so I can do that. I used to just sit in my room and do that for hours. It's good. It's good times.
That's awesome. I didn't even know Captain Underpants was around that long.
You know what? I don't know. I know that my boyfriend was a Captain Underpants kid, but I don't actually know when it came out. But it's funny. You can always tell when you're talking to a kid if they're into Captain Underpants or Diary of a Wimpy Kid or anything similar, Dogman, anything like that. Because not just their sense of humor, but like as you know, I'm teaching and I'm working with kids within that age group where they would really want to you know, read these things. They'll just show you. They'll be drawing stuff. They'll be doing things. You're like, oh, that's really cool. What'd you do? It's like, oh, I'm drawing my own comic. And it's like, oh, do you have more pages? Yeah. Do you want to bring them in? Yes. Like they're all making stuff. And they're all inspired by Captain fucking Underpants. It's fantastic. I love it.
I didn't see the movie that came out. Apparently, it was a lot of fun.
Oh my god, it's so good. It's so fun. 1997. That's when it came out.
Wait, really? The Captain Underpants movie?
No. The book. The movie came out like 4 years ago. At least.
Yeah. It was apparently like really well reviewed.
Mm-hmm. It was an absolute delight. 10 out of 10. If you want to spend the rest of your night thinking about poopy butt jokes, you're gonna watch that movie. That's the best one for it.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
I'm sorry to your wife.
She enjoys a good butt joke. She's not above that. What do you got? You got a cough?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to keep coughing. I was really sick a couple weeks ago, and this cough just won't go away. And the weather keeps radically changing. Like yesterday and the day before, it was really hot, and now it's like cold and raining, and it's just messing with me. I've got some fisherman's friend I've been eating, but it's just like bleh. It's not helping. It's not helping. I'm dying, Ryan. I'm dying. I'm sorry.
I really like the noise you made. It's like, yeah. It's like, what is that? What is she even doing?
I'm just. Sometimes you just need onomatopoeia to let people know that you're feeling like Garbo.
Yeah, no, I understand. That sucks. Malka actually got sick while we were in Italy.
Oh yeah.
We were on the plane. We had quite a trip. It was like we were supposed to go from Albany Airport to Washington, and then get a flight from Washington to Rome. Mm-hmm. There was some delay because of weather, because of course, and it was getting really stressful. And then we had a last-minute option to instead take a car that the airport would pay for, like a taxi, from Albany Airport all the way to Newark, and then take a flight from there to Frankfurt, Germany, and then from there to Rome. And it ended up being shorter, an overall shorter trip, which I was pretty happy about, like less time on a plane. But while we were on the plane from Frankfurt, this guy, like Malka's in the middle, and this guy on her side is just like just coughing and just blubbering, and just he was like the thing.
Gosh.
And as he's sneezing and coughing, she just slowly looks over at me with this look in her eyes, like, if I get this guy's cold, I am gonna riot. And then she did. She started showing symptoms after like the first 4 days of our vacation, because it was incubating.
Yeah.
So we're in Florence, this beautiful place, and she's like, I want to walk around and look at the scenery, and she's like can barely walk because she's so exhausted. And I had to be a dad and be like, you're going to bed. Like, you're gonna lie down. You're gonna have soup, and you're gonna stop. Like, we're gonna enjoy a couple of things, and then we're going back into the, you know. She had such little energy, she could barely talk. She was like, it was just very, but she was, you know, even though it was really frustrating, she was kind of a champ about it. She was like, you know.
She was really brave about it.
She was, she's a little trooper. Yeah, and then we kept thinking, oh man, when's Ryan going to get this? Like, when am I going to start showing symptoms? And it just never happened. I never got it. So.
Forged in the depths of the fiery hellscape that is I don't know. Where were you born?
What was that?
I had this whole thing and I realized, wait, you moved to New York. Where are you from? Listen, we can't all have golden god immune systems, but I'm glad one of you guys was able to keep the fun going.
Well, she would I'd put her to bed. I was born in New Jersey, by the way, but okay. I would put her to bed, then I would just go walk around and take pictures of stuff. But the thing is, I just kept trying to do things that I knew she wasn't interested in, which is for me, it's I'm gonna look at every goddamn cathedral in this country,
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, yeah, cathedrals are nice, but she's like, I'm a Chicago Jew. I don't need to see every damn church.
We just saw a Catholic church literally 2 days ago. What are we doing?
Yeah, and I'm just and there's hundreds of them because it's Italy, so there's just thousands of churches everywhere, and each one is 200 years old. So.
God, that must have been so cool.
It's awesome. I think that I shared the folder with you of all the pictures.
No. But...
Oh, okay. I'm gonna share the Dropbox folder if you want to see. I took 500 pictures of architecture and art and stuff.
I need to feed my my history craze. Yeah. I've been meaning to do more research and things and stuff and fun stuff. I know that's so super specific, but I don't know as much about certain time periods as I'd like to, and I need to brush up on some other ones because I keep saying facts that I know about them, and now I'm double checking. Wait, is that how that was though? It's been a while since I learned this fact. Is that really true though? So I need to I'm gaslighting myself. I need a refresher.
Yeah, where's an area that you wish you knew more?
Well, I'm not as fluent about the medieval period in general. I know many things about a little bit later into the Renaissance and the Baroque period. I know at least the core of what Baroque, how it started, and then how it spread, and then how it got taken over a little bit. But as far as what was the job of the guard in front of the castle in the middle of Ireland? Did they have castles in Ireland? Who ran the castle in Ireland? What's the hierarchy? What are the battles over there? How about over here? How did that differ? At the same time period as this guy was over here in Japan doing this stuff. I don't quite have that kind of more world buildy type grasp of. I know that sounds like such a cringy way to talk about our own histories, but I like the world building. I want to know more.
No,
when did they start using forks?
Yeah. Yeah, that's I totally get what you're talking about. No, and I don't think world building is necessarily a cringy way to. I mean, it makes sense. It's that's kind of how our generation sees a lot of things because we consume way more fiction than people did centuries ago.
It's true.
I think people always consume fiction, but there's just kind of a thing about us where I think because we have less crazy shit happen. I know it seems like our lives are chaotic and politics and all that stuff, but compared to people 1,000 years ago, it's things are pretty stable. The fact that you even can blame or criticize people in power already makes us better off than people in the 1500s or 30, where it's you have besmirched the name of the king, you must now carry the rock of shame.
Yeah. Send him to the tower.
Yeah.
That tower all the tourists will go to in 1,000 years. Send them there.
But because of that, we're way more interested in finding adventure and read stuff, and I think that's why history is so. I love it. I love it so much. It's you can. I really don't get tired. I mean, there's times I can't absorb any more of it in a given session, but overall, I don't really get tired of history. It's just always cool.
So, what initially got you interested in history the way that you're into it now? Was there a catalyst, or was this a slow growing interest? What got you into it?
Really good historical fiction made me want to learn what really happened. When you see a movie that's just incredibly badass and you're wait, is this real? And you find out, oh my god, it was. Something that. Yeah, go ahead.
Little 9-year-old Ryan is watching the 13th Warrior for the first time. Whoa! There was no dragon. There was no dragon. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so the 13th Warrior. I'm assuming you've seen it because you brought it up.
Yeah.
that movie is like a really awesome like gateway drug into history, because it's like, because one of the things I thought was really cool about it was like I remember having read Beowulf and being like, oh, this is like they're kind of doing a Beowulf thing, but I was like, wait, so Middle Eastern guys and Vikings like actually crossed paths, and then I like looked up all this stuff and was like, oh my god, they were like totally historically connected. And then it was just like it just made the world seem so much more dynamic, where it's like, history. There's also just like once, and this is actually a really good thing about the internet, is that algorithmic stuff like YouTube, if it senses you have an interest in something, it'll just supply you with more of that thing. So like when I first started looking at stuff on YouTube, and YouTube is like, oh, you like that, don't you? you like that story about Charlemagne and how he learned how to read? Oh yeah, you like that? Well, here's another thing about the first time Native Americans came into contact with Norsemen. You like that, honey? You like that, bitch? You like that shit? And I and I was just like, I do. Give me more history, daddy.
Yes, daddy.
Educate
Daddy,
me harder, daddy.
Send me more information. Teach me.
Yeah, and then I found it all, and like YouTube was a big part of that when I first discovered it when I was like in my early 20s, because it was the first time that like, oh, all of these historical documentaries are just here for free on YouTube, and you can just
do that.
You can just watch them and learn all this stuff, and it was just really cool. Like, did you hear of History Dose?
I've not heard of History Dose, but now I'm gonna look into History Dose because I like the name.
It's great, and it's perfect for someone like you who's busy but you want to like get into history. They are wildly entertaining, 10 to 20 minute little episodes, sometimes even shorter.
Oh, perfect.
Where they'll pick not random, but they'll pick somewhat randomized historical accounts of different things that happened throughout the history of the world, and they'll just do like a 10-minute deep dive into it, and it's really beautifully edited, where they have like really awesome music, and it's very cinematic, and they'll have so one of the guys is the writer and narrator, and the other one is his brother, who does all of the art for it. He does like he's like a concept artist, so he does like big epic paintings to depict specific things in history.
Cool.
And they're always amazing. Every time they drop a new video, it's like an event. Everybody's like, oh man, they dropped a new, so like one of them, and like it's really cool. Like they'll pick a one of my favorites was actually that video of okay, so one of them is when Vikings, I think they recognize that the Viking stuff is really popular with people. So they had one of the first time that Vikings encountered like early Native Americans, like thousands of years before America was quote unquote discovered. And it's just awesome. Like it just shows like the origin of the Native American tomahawk might have actually come from their first encounter with Norsemen's. Like,
oh, interesting. Okay, I can see that.
The Native Americans used to fight with stone knives and arrows and stuff, but then they saw the axe and they like recreated a smaller version of it, which is the tomahawk, and then they added their own component to it, which is that it's a throwing weapon, because the Vikings didn't really use them that way, but then the Native Americans have a different understanding of like hunting and fighting, so like a weapon that can be a projectile as well as it's just really cool. But and just like different stories, and like how both of them relied on oral history, because it was before either culture was literate, so they have these like competing accounts of like the way information's been passed down. It's just really cool. They have another one about the can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
The microphone's a little further away. They have another one that's like the first time that ancient African royalty encountered, I think, ancient China.
Oh, wow, okay.
And it's like their accounts of each other passed down, like what they thought of each other. And yeah, no, they're really, really cool. They have a whole one about ninjas, about what actual ninjas were like shinobi.
Oh, cool.
How, like, separating it from the Hollywood version and being like, there was like the idea of what a shinobi like ninja was is very different than we see now. Like it was seen as very dishonorable to be one, because it meant that you weren't fighting, you were using stealth, and like that was like a shameful thing. So there were people in the country who were samurai but were secretly shinobi at the same time. They were like and it was like a thing you didn't talk about if you were, because it was considered,
Dirty.
Yeah, that you were like a stealth killer. But you were. It was like having. Yeah, it's awesome. The League of Assassins was a whole thing. Like Assassin's Creed. Like that's a real thing.
That was a real thing. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
is the Dream Machine a real thing too? Can we get that? Can we do the Dream Machine?
And so was the Magic.
Oh, good. Thank God.
Anyway, so I don't mean to go on about it, but yeah, History Dose is great. The one that was my favorite for this past year, if anybody here knows History Dose, they did one about the final duel that was allowed in Europe when they were using guns, like the last pistol duel that they allowed, I think in Paris, I want to say, and it was shockingly. You're going to be surprised by this. It was over a chick. Two guys were killing each other.
Gales. It's never about that. Men are always so level-headed about things like that.
Yeah, and it's hilarious. I mean, it's dark and it's sad because like one of them killed the other. But it's like it was like this woman was apparently very, very beautiful, and this guy kept like telling her to leave her husband, and she was like, I don't know, maybe I will. She kept just being like coy, and then eventually the two men fought, and then the one guy killed the husband killed the guy who was trying to mac it with his wife, and then years later she started flirting with this other guy, and he was like, do I have to kill this guy too? He was like he has a diary he wrote where he's like, I've already killed a guy over this, I gotta do this again.
Wow.
Like, at which point do I just ask my wife to stop flirting?
I mean, what a weird position to be put in. Or, you know what kind of a weird woman do you have to be? Your husband killed a man for you.
Yeah.
He's dead now, and you liked that guy, allegedly. And what, like 10 years later, you're like, nah, it wasn't that bad. I'll flirt again. It's fine.
Maybe things have softened up a little bit now.
He's not allowed to do it anymore. The government said no, so I can do this.
Well, he wrote this like diary entry that he was like, I've already sent one creature to his creator on the account of my wife's, dalliance. Should I do it again?
Ooh.
And then eventually he dies of like of some other illness. The guy, the husband, and then the end of the story.
I mean, it was the time. Okay, they all had it.
And then she's like in her 40s, and she immediately remarries this guy who did something, and so they like don't have pictures of her, but the history is like, man, she must have been light speed hot. It's like everybody just killed each other over this woman, and I don't know. Some people just don't have. I mean, she must have been like a little bit of a sociopath. She seems like
she had to like it.
Yeah, that she enjoyed the like causing the chaos, and it's like it makes me think of Angela from The Office.
I mean, some women really enjoy being fought over, and apparently she really enjoyed murder. So,
I mean, I asked Malka, I was like, would you enjoy like watching two men fight? She's like, oh my god, no, that would be the most anxiety-inducing experience of my life. I would imagine it's like that for anybody with a conscience. You don't want to see people fight over you.
If I'm going somewhere to watch men fight, that's different. I'll go to like a martial arts like match or something. But if my boyfriend got into a fist fight because some guy made a weird comment, I wouldn't stop him, but I wouldn't feel great about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me paint a scenario for you, and I want to see your reaction.
Okay.
Because I know women love it when men put them in a position where they have to speak on behalf of all women.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, it's been hi. It's me, all women. It's me. Hi.
It's me, all women. Hi, how are you? Hypothetical scenario: some guy. Let's say some guy really like violates your space. Maybe he's really gross. He says something gross, or he even like tries to touch you, and your boyfriend, your man, just totally makes a fool out of him, like slaps him around. It's like a real Popeye scene. What is your reaction to that? Are you like, hell yeah, that's my guy, let's go make out? Or are you like, I really hate violence and I wish you hadn't done that? Or is it something else?
I think it depends on the scenario. If this guy is like assertive and aggressive and like putting his hands on me, I'm all for it. Punch the crap out of him. I'll help you pay the dental bills. But if he's just like saying stuff and I have the elbow room to defend myself before he jumps in, I would like that elbow room to defend myself first.
That's a really fair position, I think. I think that makes a lot of sense because you're like, wait, I'm an adult. I can tell him to go, F off.
Yeah. I'm a big boy. I can do it.
That's how I've described you to people. Like, is Maya nice? I'm like, oh, she's a big boy. She's great.
Yeah, I'm cool. I had a pretty close scenario to that recently. Nothing happened, but it very easily could have, and it would have maybe been a little bit my fault, a little bit.
What did you do?
So we celebrated one of my friend's birthdays recently, just this past weekend, and a bunch of our shared friend group went to a bar, and of course, as you do, we pre-gamed a little bit first, then we went to the bar. Somebody at the bar gave me a very fun piece of candy, and I didn't get like super messed up. Like I had 2 beers, I maybe had a shot or 2 pre-gaming, and I took the smallest amount of that candy. Like I was coherent. I wasn't going to drive anywhere, but I could talk to a police officer. Like that's kind of where I was. There weren't police. That's just the mindset I was in. I was pretty clear. But having done all those other things already, I also didn't have my typical social filters completely on. So I'm usually more patient about things like this. But we were out front. Me and a couple of guys were getting ready to go home. Like my boyfriend was with me. Our friend, two of our other dude friends were with me. I was the only woman there. And we're all just sort of like waiting outside the bar, waiting for the Uber. And some person, I'm really certain he's homeless, but he comes walking up and he's clearly not okay. You can kind of just tell the way he's walking, the way he's talking to himself, that there's just something not quite there. But he's walking past and he sees me, and instead of just continuing to walk down the sidewalk, he shifts gears and speed and beelines for the closest little like ledge nearby me. Like close by me, there's kind of like one of those brick wall, short little like garden boxes in front of one of the stores, and he sits on that, and he's like rocking back and forth and being like doing whatever he's doing. He's stimming and stuff, and he starts yelling some pretty vulgar things in my direction. The guys next to me are all caught up in conversation. Most of them are a bit drunker than I am, and so they're not picking up on what he's saying. He's not like yelling really loud, but he's basically, I don't want to like get you like shut down, but he's basically trying to get me to go over there and lift up my pants or something. Like, I don't know how you want to lift up pants, but you know what I mean? Like he's just catcalling in the worst way. And instead of walking away like I normally would, or just ignoring him like I normally would. I'm just sitting there on my phone, and I hear what he's saying, and I was like, fuck this guy. And in the 6 to 8 feet between the two of us, I spat on the ground, and he got really mad. He got like really super mad. This is not a smart thing to do with somebody.
You're telling me that the unstable man in the street did not like
me putting down the boundary of pass not my spit on the ground, leave me be. He did not understand. And of course he started yelling back, and he got up aggressively and started like pacing back and forth and trying to get up in space. And he didn't get close to me at all. He always stayed many feet away. But I spat and I walked around and I went like into my group of friends and I was like, hey guys, I messed up. Hey guys. Hide me. That was bad. That was dumb. That was really dumb. And he's just, oh, you just spit at me. Oh, you just spit on this. Just really angry and continuing to call me vulgar things. And eventually he just walked off on his own, which was pretty great. But there's no reason why I should have done that, except that I had such a low tolerance for that, and my filters were out the window, and it was really dumb.
But also, like, fuck him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No,
I know that's not, and I'm trying to get hopefully monetized, so I have to work on cursing. But how do I not curse? I don't know. I don't know what they want from me.
Don't cuss in the first 30 seconds of your video, and then you're fine. Allegedly.
Well, my initial strategy was to start every video and go, fuck!
Like, fucking welcome to my fucking podcast where I talk to fucking cool people. Yeah. Aren't you fucking stoked?
And then like reveal my new Guy Fieri haircut like in that same energy.
Oh please, yes.
But I don't know, like fuck him. I don't know why. Like I don't know. I empathize with your just need to be like, you know what? I'm not gonna just let you own all the space because it's like I understand people are mentally ill and that we should be compassionate, but just because someone is mentally ill doesn't mean they're not getting a bit of a thrill out of making the normies uncomfortable, which I think is a thing that happens a lot in the city. Because, like, you know, I know you're in LA, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
so
I was in New York City for a long time, and I will trade your story with a story, and it's another thing where
I will take your trade.
my fiance did not like that I did this, but we've had this argument many times where it's like I still think I was in the right, and she just learned not to argue with me about it. But I was on the train, and this is like a little glimpse into Ryan's anger management issues. My friend Nick calls it my testosterone rage, where I suddenly turn into like roided up Fred Flintstone and just start like being like, you know,
Roided up Fred Flintstone.
And it's basically like this guy. So I'm on the train. I'm sitting there, being on the train, and this guy comes in. He's a young man in a mask. He's like a skinny, tall guy wearing like a COVID mask, but I think it might have been before COVID happened, if I remember correctly. And he's just like, he just starts yelling. He starts under his mask being like, you know, he's like, I got a gun in this. He's got a hand in his bag. And he's walking back and forth. He's like, I got a gun in this bag, and if anybody even looks at me, I'm going to shoot him. And he starts yelling that shit out and going. And everybody's like doing the like, I don't know, this like the anxious New Yorker
side eye.
Just like don't look at him. Just keep your eyes on your book and
let him be mad.
What'd you say?
And let him be mad.
Yeah, let him just say his thing because it's like everybody's like, you know, let's just hope he doesn't really have a gun. He's just talking shit. Because if anybody, and then like I've learned from experience, if somebody has a gun, they don't say I have a gun and not show it. They just pull it. And he's just yelling it back and forth. And I see in front of me this pregnant woman sitting there being like, oh God, oh God, oh God. Like she's getting more afraid. She's like trying to control her breathing. And I'm already angry. And when I see that, I'm like, oh, fuck this. And I just get up and I walk up to him and I take his bag away and I dump his belongings on the floor. And I was like, look, there's no gun. I was like, see, no gun. It was like, just like wrappers. There was like a half-eaten sandwich, and there was like, he had a wrench for some reason, which I thought maybe was his real weapon of choice. But I dump it on the floor, and I'm like, no gun. What do you like? And I'm like, you see? Yeah, you're full of it. You're full of shit. And he gets really mad, but he doesn't. He makes like he's gonna hit me, but he doesn't move. And then the train doors open, and I just like took all of his stuff, and I just like threw it onto the platform. And like threw his bag out, and he had to go chase after it because that was, you know. And then the doors closed behind him, and of course, once the doors are closed, he starts cursing me out. Like once he doesn't have to account for why he's not beating me up, even though he said he would. So you know, he can protect his like ego by pretending that the doors closed in time, when in reality he was like, I guess, intimidated. I don't know. I don't want to flatter myself, but
I mean,
that
he called his bluff.
Yeah, it was like it's bullshit. You don't have, and like obviously he's someone who's probably dealing with mental illness, which is what Malka pointed out to me. And she's like, you know, he's already like in pain, you know. But I was like, yeah, but he's like terrorizing people. Like fuck him, you know. Like I was like, everyone who hurts someone else is dealing with some kind of mental illness. Typically. It's just like, you know, like you know how many people have like attacked people on the street, and it's like, oh well, they're mentally ill. It's like, it doesn't give them the right to just start. I mean, it doesn't excuse their behavior past a certain point. Like you have to be able to, you know, like, if someone's mentally ill, like maybe being intimidating can actually help shake them out of whatever nonsense they're spiraling, you know. And everybody ignoring them might actually not be helping them. Maybe me getting in his face and being like, "Shut your goddamn mouth! You don't have a gun. Walk away." Might actually like stir something in his. I'm not saying it cures him, but it stirs him out of like a cycle of like. Because for all you know, I told her he was riding trains all day yelling that same thing at people and kind of getting off on people's anxious reactions, and then somebody embarrassed him and now he has to do something else, and maybe the other thing he'll do is more constructive.
I think my worry was less about the compassionate side of me, which I appreciate that that's what you got from this story, because I do put in an effort to try to be understanding and compassionate of the people around me and the things that they have to deal with. My worry was that he was already aggressive, and if I made him angry, he would retaliate. And
I understand.
And it's frankly, I think that like calling him out, while risky for the same reason, though I honestly also would have felt like he didn't really have a gun, but he was certainly aggressive and clearly wanted to fight. I mean, you're a big dude with like muscle and charisma. That's something that you can use to make the other people around you feel at ease. Like, you took your privilege and you used it, you know? Not to sound Californian, but there are plenty of people who do try to use their things that make them stressed and full of anxiety and whatever their mental illness is as an excuse. And there's plenty of people who don't. And those people are the ones who are out there normal day to day, just trying to get by and take care of their stuff and take care of themselves. And those are the people who are deserving of compassion, because they're not expecting it from you. They're just giving it where they have it too, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I totally get what you mean.
So the person who's at, like, you know, at the coffee line going like, you're not giving me the right coffee, this is the one that I need, and you're giving me anxiety, I'm having that person doesn't, you know. that's not it. That ain't it.
That ain't it. Yeah.
Not that that's a
no, I think that's a very balanced way of looking at it. Because, you know, we had a bit of a row after. This is years ago. We're past it now, but we had a bit of a row afterwards because she was like, you know, she saw it as like Ryan having trouble controlling his temper. But I was like, I kept telling her, I was like, you don't understand. Like, I knew exactly what I was very much in check of my emotions. Like it was not me hauling off and getting mad. Like, I knew I made a decision. Like, I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna do something about this. And if I get shot, whatever, you know, it's just like it would suck. And I was the thing is, like, and this is this weird thing that happens in my brain. Because, like, my friends have known me to be surprisingly confrontational in those situations where, like, you know, most people wouldn't bother, but I'm like, is that... And I'm trying to adjust my mentality because I recognize that this is not always a way to think of things. But I was like, yeah, something bad could happen or nothing could happen, and I would feel ashamed that I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And I know people who deal with that shame. I can tell when guys I know around me who are, like, physically capable don't intervene in a situation and let it solve itself, and then it does, but you still feel like, man, I just sat there.
Yeah. You know?
And it's just like I, you know, there's just been in the subway, and let me see the chat. Taco says, that's the most New York thing. Yeah, it is. A guy just saying he'll shoot everybody and pacing up and down. Yeah, it's you know, there were other situations in the train where there was, like, it looks like these two women were in a fight, and they were like a couple. Like, it was one of those abusive situations. And I remember just, like, Malka was with me this time, and, like, I was, like, about to intervene because, like, one of them was about to start hitting the other one, and I was like, I don't know what to do because I'm a guy, so, like, I could end up in prison for even doing anything, like, you know, putting my hands on a woman. But I was like, okay, maybe I'll get between them or something. And she grabbed me. She's like, don't. She's like, they're not gonna kill each other. They're just having a thing. Let them just, you know, like,
let them duke it out.
Like, yeah. And then, like, I kind of hesitated, and then they saw me looking at them like I might do something, and then they just kind of stopped because they were like, I don't want to go to prison, you know, or whatever. And they walked off the train together, probably to continue fighting. And that was a situation where she was right. Like, I didn't need to intervene. It was two chicks who were both, like, 60 pounds. Like, they were very skinny and young. It wasn't like a guy my size and, like, a small woman and him, like, smashing her around. It was like two chicks shoving each other. And, like, not everything needs my input or intervention. Like, it's just not necessary, you know?
But you gotta read the fight, right? You gotta read the room. You gotta pick your battles.
Yeah, and I think that's, like, a good thing to remember is, like, it's not your job to intervene in every situation, you know, and like something, and also, like, I could have made it worse if I'd intervened. Like, I honestly could have just, like, angered the one who's more aggressive could get angered and then go home and take it out on the other one. You know,
that's a real worry. Yeah, especially if it's like a clear domestic situation. And that one's a hard one to deal with. I've luckily not had to intervene or not been in a situation where you say something so obviously, you know, domestic abuse situation, but intervening can honestly become more detrimental to the victim of the abuse, or because it's like they're getting called out, they're going to blame that person if they go home together. It could be worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was honestly, like, okay, so I joke around a lot about being a magnet for strange people and situations. and it's because I keep coming into contact with them, even though I don't go outside that much. What are you doing? Sorry, my cat's doing something weird. Hang on a second. He's about to turn on the
cat's not doing something weird.
You quit that? What are you doing? Come on, come on. Sorry, just look over behind me after hearing all these noises. And the cats are in a cubby where, my bad, it was a PlayStation. We're fighting each other. Oh my God.
I don't want to derail the story you were going to tell, but I want to ask real quick. Are you like me where you get more concerned when you don't hear your cats doing anything for a few minutes? You're like, oh God, what are they doing?
Occasionally. If one of them has the zoomies and then suddenly it's quiet, something's up. But, I mean, so my roommate's moving out, and so a lot of their typical climbing and hiding areas are being shifted or moved around or gone because she's selling her furniture and because she's about to move cross country.
Oh, cool.
And so the two of them are both reacting poorly to this because, like, my cat likes to climb up higher places to get away from the other cat because Dante's fat. He can't jump up as high. But Dante also likes to run around and chase him because he doesn't want to use his cat wheel unless somebody's spinning it for him, which, like, what's the point of getting the cat wheel? It's so cute. It's so cute. But he doesn't want to do it by himself. He does it sometimes, though. But the point is, they're all over the place right now. They're fine, I think. But so basically, every time I go outside, I'm gonna likely run into somebody weird. And it's not like every time I go outside. I leave for work all the time. But if I'm going outside to have a normal day and it's not for work, because, you know, I drive to work, I go into work, and then I come home. But if I'm out, like, grocery shopping, taking a friend out somewhere, if I go anywhere, I am probably gonna run into somebody strange. And it happens a lot. After we first moved here a couple of years ago, there's a little bar within walking distance near here, and Will and I wanted to go and, just grab a beer. It seems like a nice day for it. It's a lovely time for a walk. We're going to go do that. And I immediately see from across the street, we're about to jaywalk. Sorry, the cats are making me nervous now. They're sniffing at things. I don't trust you guys now. You're too close together. Go away. I immediately see that there's a guy who I've seen around the neighborhood who I'm really sure is homeless. He could just be that he just likes to sit in the same spot all the time, but he's walking in our general direction, but we're jaywalking across the street and he's down the sidewalk on the other side. And I immediately know, like, oh God, here it comes. But I can't drag Will around because the momentum's already there. We're already halfway across the street, so I can't just go like, and we're gonna veer around him. So we end up crossing him on the sidewalk, and he stops us. He's like, "Hey guys, does anybody else feel like maybe they should just kill themselves like right now?" And we're like, no, sir. And he's like, yeah, and I gotta be honest, guys, I'm feeling really good to be alive right now. I'm feeling really good to be alive. And he just starts rambling about how and he's in a great mood. This dude's not being unpleasant except for what he's saying, and he didn't even say hello. We don't know this man. It's really awful, really awful. The state of the world today. My mother stabbed my sister with a double-serrated knife. My mother stabbed my sister with a double. And you know what? We just gotta be grateful. We just gotta be grateful about the way that things are today. And we're just like,
And you're like, sir, this is a Wendy's restaurant.
Yeah, we're on a sidewalk. It's a lovely day. And we're like, really? And then my boyfriend, Will pulls out his phone. He's like, oh, hang on a second. I'm so sorry. Yeah? Oh, yeah. Hang on a second. Hey, my sister, my mom has a question for you. He's like, oh, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. So sorry, sir. We gotta take this.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I love that. It was fine. It was just very much, have a good day. Don't stab your sister.
Damn, dude.
Yep.
That's crazy. That does not happen to most people. But
no.
I don't know, maybe is LA just like that now, or is it more like it's you specifically? Do you think you bring that out in people?
A bit of both. This has been going on for years, but within the last 5 years, at some point, Gavin Newsom, our governor, changed up some laws around who can be in prison for what to help deal with the overpopulation in prisons that we have. The problem is that a lot of the people that he's releasing or did release were mentally ill and did not have a backup plan. They didn't just get moved to a place that could better facilitate their needs. They were just on the street. And a lot of those people on the street just stayed on the street. Unfortunately, there's also a growing fentanyl problem here too, so it's been a little bit of all that. But I was getting weirdos as far back as I can remember. Like, even as a kid, like, waiting at a bus stop to get home from middle school, and some dude driving by and throwing flour at the bus stop at all the people waiting. Some, like, high school jock doing that.
Why?
Why
flour?
Because they want to pick on the kids. I don't know, there's just some aura around me that's just like, approach me, I'm friendly. Even if I used to wear a lot more like goth gear and like punky stuff. Like, I wasn't like assertive looking, but I wasn't friendly looking either. And I would still get people going like, you know, if anybody wants to ask for directions or if you can take a family photo, they would ask me, and I would say yes.
Yeah. I mean, you do have a friendly face. Guys, I've seen her face. It's friendly. I can confirm the chat.
Yeah. I've started using a webcam on streaming lately because I'm feeling too lazy to do my PNG tuber, and I don't really connect with that little gator anymore. And if I'm going to do this more often, I don't want people to think that I'm like a scaly, because I'm not. I just like gators. I think they're cool.
Oh, hey, Cartoonist Place. Thanks for dropping in, man. Love you, man. I'll see you next time.
Later.
No, yeah, I mean, I'm interested in if this is a common experience, because I know women probably get approached generally more anyways, because they're just generally less threatening, especially if you're someone who's just like not all there. You kind of like, maybe you hone in on a friendly face, and women tend to have more agreeable faces. Evidenced with the fact that when women don't, people call it resting bitch face, which is really unfair.
Or they, call you a manner of other things. If you're not pleasant and agreeable, then what are you? A word that I would love to say, but I'm worried it will definitely get you shut down, so I'm not going to.
The word she's thinking of, guys, is fishwife.
It's see you next Tuesday.
I know. But the fishwife was... Have you ever heard the term of fishwife?
I've not. I have a follow-up. I have a dog moment. So you tell me your thing, and I want to tell you mine.
It's an old medieval insult for like a woman who's like unlovable and like a woman who lacks feminine compassion. If she's like a grumpy lady, they call her. She's an old fishwife.
I love that. I'm gonna take that.
It's great.
I'm gonna tell it to the kids.
Yeah, please do. Tell them Daddy Ryan sent it over.
Hey, little boy. Papa Ryan's got Do you know what a fishwife is?
Well, the cops are like rushing in to arrest you.
Oh man.
But what were you going to say? You had a dog thing?
Okay, so I have a phrase. I'm sorry. And I want to share this phrase because maybe the other two in the chat here would also like it. I started using it when we moved here. I have a dog. And it's basically, if you just sit and watch a conversation and see how it starts to shift and change topics, what often happens is somebody will bring up something, somebody will be reminded of another thing that's potentially not really related to the first thing, but sometimes typically it is. I think adults are really good at keeping a conversation fairly coherent. But sometimes somebody in that conversation has ADHD, and they'll have a dog moment. So I want you to imagine that you're a teacher in front of a first grade class, and you tell them, Jason has 2 dogs. Sally has 1 dog. How many dogs are there? And a hand shoots up, and they say, my cousin has a dog. And then another hand shoots up, we're going to get a dog, and it's going to be a Pomeranian. And another hand shoots up, my uncle had a Pomeranian once, but then it died. And another hand shoots up, my grandfather died yesterday. And another hand shows up, my grandpa likes to take me to places with where Santa Claus is every year. And it just jumps conversation because one part of it was connected. And so,
House of Cards.
Yeah, House of Cards. So my I have a dog moment is your fishwife thing. So I have a little bag of Fisherman's Friend here for my throat. I don't know if you've ever used it, but it's like a menthol lozenge thing. And they were originally made by a dude who was a fisherman, and he made them for his other fisherman buddies. And apparently, the reason they're shaped like they are, which they're little ovals with little dots on them, is because he loved his wife, and they look like her buttons from her favorite blouse.
That's really sweet.
Isn't that cute?
They're really cute.
They're the best lodgings I've ever had. I hate them. They're so bad. I hate eating them, but they're so good. They do their job.
Meaning that they're very effective?
They are very effective. I hate menthol.
Right, but they're not tasty, is what you're saying.
No. I'd rather be eating honey.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when Malka had her cough, it was like honey and I forgot what else she was doing. I don't know. She has... she grew up in like a more like homeopathic kind of home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my family was like, here, take this literal cough medicine. But she's like tea and honey and
tea and lemon.
Yeah, tea and lemon.
Yeah. When my family was kind of similar. Whenever we would get sick, my mom or my nana would make they would boil some water, throw in just a buttload of lemon and a bunch of honey, and then maybe some tea if they felt like it. It was literally just like have a hot lemonade. It was the best. Sometimes I'll throw.
Sounds awesome.
It's great. I still make it, and sometimes I'll throw some ginger in there too, and it's just like super good.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, do you get sick often these days or no?
Recently, yeah. I've been getting I got sick in January pretty bad. I've been it's worse than usual, and it does not make me feel good. That's the other reason why I think I'm actually probably way more unhealthy than I look. I don't think it's just the weight. I think it's just because I only go outside when I go to work.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So it's something that I'm working on. I recently came to terms with a new perspective on how I want to treat myself, and I haven't been able to fully put it into gear yet, but part of it is working out more and eating better and whatever. So I've already started eating better. Yeah. I had avocado toast for breakfast, and I'm very proud of myself. Yeah.
What was your typical breakfast before that?
Sometimes it was something
cigarettes.
Healthy. Cigarettes. Just taking a pack of cigarettes and eating
it. Cigarette water, but with lemon and honey though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But sometimes it would be something healthy, and sometimes it would be like, I'll just use this cup of ramen and throw a bunch of peanut butter in it. It'll be fine.
Sure, I understand that. Yeah. So, as you know, before I drew werewolves for a living, I did personal training stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And something that I would love to impart to anyone listening who struggles with weight or is worried about their weight, the big thing they're learning now in exercise science, and they're really very passionate about, is that our sense of what it means to be overweight, it's just really not what people think. Like, so essentially, you can be a heavier person so long as you have a good amount of muscle mass.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's like, so like what we think of when we think of obesity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's and obviously this doesn't apply to you because you're not like obese. You said you're heavier than you'd like to be for sure, but like you're not someone who.
I'm clinically obese. Like, it's a really small threshold to be clinically obese. Like, I'm
It is. That's why I don't really count it, because according to that, I'm clinically obese. But it's like I can also run a 6-minute mile and I can do 10 pull-ups. So like like they don't account for muscle mass. It's a mess.
Sure.
It's a terrible metric. I didn't mean to cut you off. But
no, that's fair. But go on.
I was gonna say, so the thing that is becoming a more popular idea is to, when you're trying to like get healthy, they're like, don't even focus on weight loss. Instead, focus on building muscle.
Mm-hmm.
And wherever your weight ends up as a result of you getting stronger is just where it ends up. But no matter what, your health is gonna be incredibly improved by just putting on, like, getting stronger. So they were like, instead of, because the reason they're focusing on this is because for many years, people were like, oh, I got to lose weight by like running, doing like really boring and exhausting, frustrating cardio, and then eating like a piece of lettuce before bed. And it's like, now the culture has moved toward like, well, no, instead, why don't you do some dumbbell weights for like 15 minutes and then eat like a high protein dinner, which you're going to be more satisfied by and enjoy more.
Mm-hmm.
And then and you'll find that and it's like, the threshold for addiction to exercise, like where you're like, oh, I'm now looking forward to exercise, it's way easier to reach that doing strength training, because cardio is just, a lot of people hate it.
Yeah, it's true.
Whereas weights can be uncomfortable in the beginning, but you get a little endorphin rush and they feel good, and
Mm.
and eventually you're like, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to do my like curls today. It's going to feel good to get that pump. And anyways, the reason I'm saying this is because I'm not a trainer anymore, but I still like really enjoy researching that stuff. And there's just been a lot of, especially women in the field, who are like, we have to stop telling women to like be smaller.
Mm.
It just like
Yeah.
just doesn't. It's not good for them mentally, and it's also like not helpful, because what they end up doing is they end up under eating, and then they just get like, yeah, they'll get skinny, but they're also like weak and depressed. So they're like, instead, like, pick up some weights, have a good steak or chicken or eggs or whatever, something good, and have some cheese if you can stand dairy. You'll be fine. But anyway, I say that because people I know who've been doing this, who are like trying to get in shape, they're like, God, I really like this so much more than. Yeah, okay. Taco Force put it perfectly. He says it's a lot more goal oriented. Yeah, it's
Definitely.
not just like, oh, I hate myself, I need to be different. It's more like, yeah, I'm going to enjoy, like, oh, it's cool because now I can lift more weight than I could before. That means I'm healthy. It's like a very clear metric.
Yeah, I think my perspective that shifted was I've always had a little bit of this in me, like since growing up as a kid, like just a little, but like it just, I had a moment last week where I just sort of like thought about it a little bit more and thought, yeah, I can commit to that. I can make that as a part of my life, and that's I was thinking about the word sacred, and this is going to be a little bit weird. So I think we've had this conversation a little bit, but I'm not a religious person. I have some very strong ideas on what I think religion is, which is different from spirituality, and I don't connect with any one religion. And I think that's partly because of how I was raised, but it's because also, I just see a lot of mythology in it, and I just recognize that for what it is to me. And and to me, to be clear, anybody else who feels differently is absolutely entitled to do so. But I'm not shitting on anybody either for that. It's just how I see the world. But I was thinking about the word sacred and the fact that our bodies are so very separate from our brains. Like you think about, like, it's not me, it's my arm. It's not me, it's my fingers. It's not me, it's my knees, right? We objectify each and every single part of our body in our own language. And, if I cut it off, it's no longer a part of me. That's not me on the floor, that's a finger. Bad analogy, but great analogy. But, I was thinking about that, like, and I come from a little bit of a woo-woo hippie background, just a small amount. So, like, we're all just like, it's just vehicles, for our spirit, and we need to take care of our vehicle. And but in that way, it is kind of sacred. This is something that was gifted by something or not, but I'm not entitled to it in the way, like, as far as like the Werner Herzog chaos in the natural world kind of fashion. Like, at any point I could lose any part of me and it would no longer be a part of me, and I would like to maybe take better care of it. And so that thought process sort of shifted my brain into thinking, like, I should probably stop eating ramen for breakfast.
Yeah. And I understand what you're saying completely. And I also feel like we should, so I'm on the fence about whether or not I'm a religious person. It's like a whole conversation I'm having with myself. And I don't know that I'm any closer to a solution. But the idea that the body is sacred is, that it's this gift. And, I think I'm probably more religious than you, almost certainly.
Well, you were raised being, like, going to church, right?
I was raised Catholic, yeah. And then I spent many years not being a practicing Catholic, and now I'm like, what? I think life feels better for me when I have like some sense of God, and like and trying to trying to look at religion now as an adult and be like, okay, what are the lessons that they're trying to teach you with these stories that could be construed as like absurd mythology,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And like recognizing, oh, this provides like a good structure. If you interpret it right and you take the right meaning from it, it's designed to give you some very sharp guidelines for like things that you should or should not do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, no, the idea that like for example, okay, so I'm just going to go off in an interesting direction based on what you said.
Mm-hmm.
You've triggered an interesting discussion here for me because
I'm into
there's
it.
this guy,
Let's do it.
this guy who's like a biologist, Brett Weinstein,
Mm-hmm.
who he himself is not a religious person, but he was talking about something really interesting, which is that he was recognizing that he believes, how did I put it? He said he believes that from his sort of atheistic, or rather his agnostic standpoint, is that religion serves a very important function historically, which is that it creates very clear delineations between ought and ought not to,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it was like a very easy way to get there. Whereas if you create debates around a subject, it's much harder to get people to just, So like an example was like, it was a tool for survival, So like it's like, okay, God doesn't want you to eat pork or shellfish, and it's like, why would people think that? It's like, well, because pork and shellfish are two things that historically were really not safe to eat, because pork had all types of possible problems as far as like how easily you could eat bad pork, and and shellfish and all that stuff. And I'm saying I'm someone who believes in God, so for me it's like I'm taking the value of what he's saying, but also understanding that like he has a bias toward agnosticism, so he's looking at it evolutionarily. But also, I still think conversationally this works, and he's like, we were doing that throughout history because it was an expedient and very effective way of making people understand why and it's like also like you don't need to know the why. God doesn't want you to eat the pork, don't eat the pork. And it's like that probably saved millions of lives, because people who would want to eat pig didn't have the now we can do it safely, and we figured out how to like not get worms, but throughout thousands of years of history it was like a way of. So again, the reason I bring that up is because the idea that you should treat your body well because it's like given to you by the heavens as a gift from above, it's like that was a very expedient way of making people understand that they should respect their body and that they only get one of them. And so like tying into your idea of the sacred, like the idea that your body is a sacred thing and that you should treat it with respect, because and like something, and it's for me one of my issues with the woo-woo, like, because I actually went through a real hippie woo-woo phase.
I love that that's the term now. That's just what it is. Hippie woo-woo.
Yeah, well, it's if I show you pictures of me in college, you're gonna laugh, because I had like really long hair.
Oh, good.
I had a big old curly fro and like big sideburns, and I wore like hemp necklaces and stuff.
Oh God, you were like a '70s woo-woo guy. You were like you were bringing the bell bottoms back.
I was still like physiologically me, like I was still like a beefy, jock guy. Like I was still like, but it was like if you took a football player and you made him stay like for a month at a hippie commune and he just completely bought into all the shit. That's what I look like.
Oh, good.
Yeah, which is like a very funny look. And something that kind of bothered me after a while was I was like, oh, they seem to have this thing where they like to diminish the importance of the body, as like it's like, oh, it's just a vessel, like that kind of thing. And I was always like, I don't know, man. It's just I know most hippies are not in a cult, but like certain religious cults, like, oh, that they'll be like, oh yeah, it doesn't, just a vessel, and then they're like, and because it's just a vessel, you should totally let me like,
do whatever I want with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cult behavior, right? Like, yeah. But even then, it's even on the outside of it, my body's just a vessel, so it doesn't matter. Only our souls matter, which means I can take all these drugs. It'll be fine.
Oh, totally, yeah. Absolutely. And it's like, for me, I think my understanding of it now is like the soul and the body are not separate things. Like, I mean, they are to some extent, but like your personality is a combination of your mental state and your physiology. Like, like a lot of guys, like, men and women, like how much of their personality is determined by like their hormones. Like, it's like, oh, this guy has like low testosterone, so he's more prone to anxiety. Like that's a whole personality. You know what I mean? That's like that people, he owns that as being a part of him, but it's like how much of it is like, yeah, if you just, get more sleep, you might be less anxious. It's so complicated, this stuff, but I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't mean to go off on this whole tangent about it. I just find this to be an interesting subject.
Well, it is an interesting subject. And, honestly, like, I want to circle back a little bit because I have a dog. So, like, as far as how religion and spirituality differ, and this is very much like a, flashing lights, my opinion kind of thing. Because I grew up very differently from you. I never went to church as a kid. We did celebrate Christmas and we did Easter when we were little, but like my mom was raised Catholic and then was very disillusioned by them. And my dad was raised, I don't know, Lutheran kind of, sort of, I guess, maybe, whatever. It was really loosey-goosey. And so they chose not to, sorry, I gotta shift myself here. They chose not to raise myself and my sisters in any sort of organized religion. And that had a massive effect on how I viewed the world. It took me until I was in middle school to really make the connection that Christmas was not about Santa and love and family and presents. I kind of knew, but I didn't know. And it was weird. It was really weird. And there's a lot of things like that I ended up missing out on because we moved when I was 7 from Cincinnati to a town outside of Los Angeles called Simi Valley, which is I moved from somewhere where there were a lot of different kinds of people to a place where there were only white Christians and the occasional Hispanic. Like, and that was a really big shift.
Yeah.
And moving there, all my friends were people who had gone to church and did certain things, and I had no idea. I didn't have those experiences as a child, and it sort of opened my eyes that there was a whole other world out there that I was not missing out on, but wasn't a part of. And it sort of started the beginnings of what would become a lifelong sort of low-key, slowly growing to high-key obsession with cults and what those are and how are those different? How is that different? And the answer is that sometimes they're not. Sometimes they are. And I think in considering, you're talking about how, like, now that you're getting older, you're starting to see the purpose behind having an organized religious presence in your life. And you're not the only friend that I have at about your age having the same feeling. My boyfriend's brother is going through the same thing. He hadn't been going to church for a number of years, and he started seeing his girlfriend, who is a wonderful and lovely person, and she's been taking him with her to a Catholic church because her family is very Catholic. And he's coming back from it and like, yeah, you know what? I kind of missed having people around feeling a lot of gratitude at the same time together. And
oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like being around this sort of reconnection of how he viewed the world as a kid. And his background with religion is very different from Catholic because it was Simi Valley Protestant, which is essentially like, it's towing the line into evangelical just a touch. Like, it's looking at it and it's winking at it, but it's not stepping over it yet.
Yeah, sure.
At least at the time. It might be now. And I think it's really interesting because having not grown up in that, I'm having the opposite feeling. I see it further and further for being foreign and being a little... and this is not meant to be rude, and I'm not, or meant to be. I'm not trying to downplay the importance this is for a lot of people, but the more I get older, the more culty it feels to me. And and I don't know. I feel like there's an end for this conversation, but it kind of just ends on the end. I don't know. We can get more into
I think that's understandable. I do think, Okay, so do you want my opinion on this?
I would love your opinion on this.
So you and I are, you're around my age, right?
I'm about to turn 33.
Oh, okay, no, you're like almost a full generation younger than me. Okay. We're separated by about 5 years of cultural programming. So like it's starting more when I was younger in the 90s and has sort of picked up now where we are we are somewhat raised in an environment that is like, I mean, like every piece of media we consume that involves religious people,
Mm-hmm.
particularly Christians, depicts them as being like batshit crazy, or at the
Mm-hmm.
very least, kind of weak. Like they're weak because they need to tell themselves the story in order to like, or they're suppressing something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I grew up in a Catholic environment, but I was really resentful of it because I was like, yeah, this is like not, I couldn't stand getting lectured on morals by people who just seemed like catty nuns and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and then what happens is you go to college and they really like evangelize you against religion. Um, and some of it's very real criticism and very legit, and some of it
Mm-hmm.
feels like, looking back, I'm like, oh, they were like, I was kind of getting a little bit groomed. I was like a really naive 18-year-old coming in there, and I was very sheltered because of my childhood.
Did
So it
it?
was like my first exposure to atheism, and it was so liberating for me because I was like, oh, there's nobody judging me. There's nobody like trying to judge me and to make me feel like I'm terrible. Like that, like
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing there, and I could
Like, you
just
still
be.
believe in Santa? Ugh. Okay.
Yeah, it's got that kind of vibe, and it was like actually really liberating. But then as I circled back and started to understand better, I was like, oh, it's not like the idea that, you're going to go to hell if you do something wrong and God's
Mm-hmm.
waiting. I realized like the whole point of it is that hell is not a place God sends you. Hell is a place that you go when you make a series of terrible decisions.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally like you create hell in your life. And so like, you cheat on your wife so she leaves you. You get addicted to gambling and you lose your money. You you pick a fight with your friend and they don't want to talk to you. You get caught in a lie and you lose your job. And it's just like people create hell in their life. And the idea that like you're being punished from something above is not really what the message, I think, originally was supposed to be. I think the message was supposed to be like, you are loved no matter what,
Mm-hmm.
and and that should inform your decisions. Is that like the idea that of unconditional love from a parent, for example, should give you enough self-love that you can like, if you love yourself, you wouldn't want yourself to do something that would embarrass you. Like, you shouldn't, or not embarrass you, but you shouldn't do something that's going to make you into the kind of person you wouldn't like.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like a guiding, principle. But coming back to it was just interesting because I realized that a lot of the information I've been fed about why it was better to not, to be free of the shackles of religion. I was like, oh, a lot of this is kind of propagandistic. And I'm not saying that there isn't, like, obviously there's liberation, to be found in
Mm-hmm.
agnosticism. But I was like, well, like, for example, it was like, you know, something that I was buying into for years was like, oh, well, promiscuity is really natural for humans, and monogamy is not natural, and it's a prison that we've been putting on ourselves because of this religion. And then I was like, once I actually learned history, I was like, that's not really true. Like
Yeah.
human beings are, in many cases, naturally monogamous, and people that I knew growing up who were like sleeping around, and this is not just women, men too, who were sleeping
Mm-hmm.
around like crazy, it made them really depressed because they were like, I'm not connecting with people, and I'm just treating my body like like this rental house, and I'm not like loving myself enough to like make people earn my love. I'm just hooking up with strangers, and it's just feeling like I feel like crap. I don't like myself anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Just things like that. I was just like fed a lot of stuff that was supposed to be like the answer,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was like, yeah, this is actually not necessarily better. I think it depends on the individual. And then I was like, well, if it depends on the individual and it's not like one is categorically a prison and the other is categorically liberation, then in the end, it's really about what makes a person more effective in the world and more happy.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of people, the idea of a higher power that's like trying to guide you toward justice, toward peace and toward like love is a really powerful idea. But a lot of people, I think, like yourself, have trouble accessing that because it just doesn't work for you thematically. Like you're just like, I don't, I not to put words in your mouth, but it's almost like you don't feel that there's anything there. So it seems culty because you look at other people and you're like, what the hell are they talking about?
Well,
There's
okay.
no one, you know?
So here's an interesting thing. Hang on a second, I got another cough.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't not believe in a higher power. I just don't believe in a specific religion. And I find that there's a very distinct difference between a spiritual connection and a religious one, but you can mix them together. You can have your peanut butter, you can have your jelly, and you can mix them together, and that's fine. But not everybody likes to mix them together. Some people need it to be more peanut butter than jelly. And so, I know that's like a weird analogy, and maybe I should
love
use
it.
ketchup
I love
and
this.
mustard, but
No, I love it.
So, my view is maybe more definable by this. Everything that you just said about there being some through line of love and a respect and compassion that should enable and encourage you to treat yourself and the people around you with kindness and with compassion and with care, with boundaries, but I agree with that. I don't really have a solid understanding for myself on what that really means as far as what the higher power is and where it comes from or whatever, but I strictly don't believe that it's not Jesus, it's not Shiva, it's not Allah, it's not whatever. Those are a human interpretation of what that could be, and the religion surrounding those is a means to facilitate that and to keep that mythology and to keep that coherence and that community and that everything, and at times, consistently through history, control. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not always a good thing, but I think for most people, it's fine and it's great. And I have no reason to disbelieve anybody if they tell me that they've had a profound experience and they saw Mary in their dreams and it inspired them to do something with their life that they weren't expecting to do. Great, you did. That's fantastic. I didn't have that. And I believe in that difference between us and the interpretations of those things.
That's a really interesting perspective on it, because it's something that, by the way, this is a really interesting discussion. Like, I'm really enjoying this.
I'm so glad. I'm good.
I don't get to talk about this very much during my streams because it's like I usually don't really get into like religion or politics, obviously, for obvious reasons. But
yeah,
like, I don't know. But I find both of those things really interesting.
Yeah.
And the fact that you brought it up and not me makes me feel like I get to say something.
I was going to segue into talking about cults, but this is also really interesting, and I've been having this conversation a lot with my boyfriend because he is Christian, and his brother is Christian, and actually his whole family to some degree or another. I think one of his brothers is like a full-on atheist, but they were raised in a I think the church was called Grace Brethren, and they didn't like it, but they kept the Christianity, and he's very in tune with his spirituality. And we had this conversation because I tend to keep my mouth shut about it because I don't want to offend him. I don't want him to think that I don't believe him when he tells me that he had the voice of God tell him that he needs to calm the hell down. Like, that's great. I'm glad he did. I'm not saying I don't believe it was God, but it was profound for him, and I have no reason not to believe it.
Yeah, no, I understand that completely. So here's something really interesting. So looking at history, and I don't want to be conspiratorial, but I do think the way that we are taught history in like liberal education, like, and when I say liberal education, I mean the fact that society tends to over time arc toward liberalism. We tend to become more open-minded. We tend to become more agnostic. We tend to, we move towards certain ideas steadily. That's, and well, there is a pendulum, but generally the long arc of society moves toward
the long arm of the law. Sorry.
Yeah, it's very hard to avoid that comparison, I know. But so something I noticed when because you asked me like my love of history, and a big part of my like current addiction to history is like is just this realization that we've been lied to about so many things. Like history is written by the victors, you know,
Oh yeah.
and that's not just true of nations versus nations, but also ideologies versus ideologies.
Also
And
true.
generally speaking, as society has become more agnostic and more secular, I think would be the term I'd use, religion gets more and more of a bad rap. And so, because it's written by people who are secular and who have a secular bias. And it doesn't mean that those things that they're categorically false, but there are a lot of things that I learned when I was reading about history. It was like, oh, the church is not like categorically evil. They actually did a lot of really good things historically. And like a lot of the things that I thought that I was told or that people take for granted are just not true. Like the idea that, you know, the Catholic Church was like trying to quell thought and science and questioning for, you know, the whole Dark Ages. They would burn you at the stake if you did science. You know, don't do a science, we're gonna burn you. And it was like a lot of historians in these documentaries we're watching are like, first of all, the church were the biggest supporters of education and science and like and literally like they were the ones putting tons of money and time for most of history into educating young people, particularly obviously young men specifically, because you know the time and sexism and all that. But generally speaking, the clergy were the ones like making huge advancements in that stuff. And and the reason that comes up a lot is because that was something that I was told just time and again. And then I was like, oh no, that's not really true. In fact, if you look at like a lot of like hundreds of years, the church was like encouraging people to question things and to doubt things. Also, like that the church was, you know, like just like, oh, that they were like burning witches throughout the Dark Ages. And then like all these historians are like, actually, that didn't happen until like the 1800s or the 1700s for most of medieval life. People, if you claim to be a witch, the church just thought you were crazy and they told you to, like, you know, they wouldn't burn you, and so they'd be like, no, you should just pray that you get over your ego, that you think you can change nature by, like, you know, burning a toad. And it was like it was because of religion. It was because they had a belief in God that you claiming you could like make somebody's penis disappear, which is an actual it's an actual thing that happened. They were like, no, you can't do that because like you can't perform miracles. You're not God. So like so like they didn't take it seriously. And so religion actually offered a buffer to bad ideas in some cases, where it was like humans can't do that. So no, you know. But also the last thing I'll say is that a lot of things that people lay at the feet of religion, such as control, and don't get me wrong, religion is definitely responsible for a lot of horrible stuff like that. But then I started learning about history of like secular societies, like communist countries historically that were awful and did a lot of the same stuff. And actually, and in some cases were worse. Like Malka and I were having a whole debate because she was like, you know, talking about the Holocaust, and like she's like, well, you know, like 7 million people at least were killed because of like, you know, this religious thing. And I was like, yeah, but do you know how many people died under Chairman Mao? And she's like, no. And I was like, okay, do you know Chairman Mao was a communist? She's like, I don't know. She's like, I think she knew something about it. But like, he was a Marxist, and his entire ideology was built on like pure intense militant atheism, to the point where they would execute people for practicing the old religion. And I mean, it was like between 40 and 80 million people that he killed. And I was like, so like it was just a lot of learning and realizing like, okay, people do terrible things, and whatever ideology they're wielding, they'll use it. And so
it's true.
Like, so it just like things like that started to change. And and sorry, go on.
It's no. It's the natural progression of the conversation, right? It's like I was saying earlier, conversations don't always change because I have a dog. They also change because your thought process of what you're considering while you're talking, you know, changes as you're saying it. People follow leads and whatever. So like, you don't have anything to apologize for.
Okay, thank you.
So you are forgiven. So, and yes, absolutely yes. I mean, I think one of the greatest examples we can give is just like look at our own government, right? Like it itself is an establishment. It is an institution, and it has done some pretty messed up stuff. Every government has.
Sure.
And if I had a choice to remove myself, I would. But unfortunately, I also know how fake it is to go out there and claim to be a sovereign citizen, because that's not a thing. So I can't just leave. My stuff is here. I have things to do.
My stuff is here.
And I'm not philosophically against there being a government. I am not an anarchist, but you know, you have to acknowledge that there are things within the history of your culture, and the government is part of my culture. And for a lot of people, the religion is part of their culture. There are things in the history of those things that were great and were not so great, and it's a weird balance for sure. But the thing that really it comes down to for religion is that when you are not in it from the beginning, it's hard to look at it and say, everything about that is for me. Cause it's
Sure.
not a switch you can flip, right? I can't just suddenly go, you know what? I'm going to choose to believe something, because I don't think something as heavy and as life-changing as spirituality is something that you can choose. I think that you just kind of come to terms with it.
No, I think that's, I agree completely.
Yeah.
And you can't, and it's, there's just certain ideas that, like, I feel like once they take hold in your brain, they're very hard to lose.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that goes for anybody on either side of a debate, really.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing that I'll say about it, that because just you got me thinking about it now, was that something that like really altered my perspective, was that I really was taking for granted for years that atheism or that agnosticism was the chosen position for people that were more thoughtful.
I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, I think that's been the kind of a stereotype that I took for granted, was like, oh, that religious people are simpler, and I'm the reason I'm not religious anymore is because I'm smart and all that. And it was just like, after, you know, living in Brooklyn and being around a very secular, like, kind of anti-religious sentiment, and realizing like how many people had just terrible ideas about things. So I was like, okay, clear. And then going back and talking to people who were like, you know, Christian, probably similar to your boyfriend, who are very intelligent people. I would imagine he's very smart.
He is very smart.
Yeah, I get that impression, because I can't imagine you would have the patience for a guy who was not brilliant. But yeah, it that altered things for me, because I was like, oh, there's actually like a lot of really logical ways of talking about this stuff. It's philosophy, it's theology, it's, you know. But the last thing, I won't say anything else about it because I feel like I'm ranting, but it's just an interesting thing for me, is that watching debates, like I started watching debates between people arguing for the existence of God versus people arguing against the existence of God. And it's like, obviously neither side can prove their perspective. But something that I thought was fascinating was that people who are agnostic, and again, or people that are secular, I should say, specifically, because I don't think that necessarily includes you, because you were talking about spirituality, which shows that you do have some sense of like that there's probably something more than just meat and bone.
Well, isn't that what agnosticism is? Where you sort of like, you believe that there could be something, but maybe there isn't, but you know, you're open to it.
Yes, but the difference is that if you're someone like yourself, it sounds like you were talking about spirituality, and I would say agnosticism isn't necessarily tied to spirituality. It's just an uncertainty about whether or not there's anything. That's my understanding of it.
Okay.
So I would say you're more like, I don't know, if I had to define you, I'd say you're someone with like possible spiritual leanings. You just don't like organized religion, which is like a very understandable position.
Yeah.
And so the critique of people that are like hard atheist were like pure subjectivist, I would say, where they're just like, no, human beings we are just animals, and we evolved differently, and that's why we talk, and that's why we have like, even, you know, the quote unquote delusion of God. So there was a debate about like, so that means based on their perspective that everything is subjective. There's no objective truth, is often the position of a hard secularist, because it's like objective truth is just not a thing that you can find if there's no divinity. Everything is just a matter of point of view. And so as a result, those same people are often very political. And so this guy in this debate was like, how can you argue about what's right and wrong when you believe everything is a matter of subjective point of view? Like, how do you fit those two? And like, it's often kind of a losing debate, because it's like you can't. And I was watching this as someone who used to make the argument that morality was subjective, and now I look back and I'm like, what am I talking about? Like you and I both right now, as two very different people, we can probably agree 99% of the time on what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a weird addition to that. I do believe that morality is subjective. I just think that the vast majority of people have a very large breadth of overlap.
Right. But this was where you and I are actually going to start moving in the same direction that the debate did, which is really interesting. Someone made that exact argument, and the other guy was like, "Yeah, but societies have had a majority that wanted to kill a minority. So like the vast majority of people, like in places like I don't know what's an example. Like okay, so Chairman Mao, I brought that up. The vast
Yeah.
majority of people were kind of in lockstep with the vision of Chairman Mao.
Mm-hmm.
So like what was considered morality in that position, in that case, was what he wanted. Or
Mm-hmm.
like the Nazis, all that stuff. So like essentially societies are capable of falling for bad ideas.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So the idea that like because like people make that argument, we're like, well, the majority wants this, therefore this is probably what's right. But it's like I don't know, the majority had some bad ideas at different points in history.
Yeah.
But what keeps happening is that we tend to over time circle back towards some idea of what's objectively right and wrong, and it kind of moves in cycles.
Yeah, it does. I think the question, like, when it comes to that as an example for a debate, you can't just say, well, they all believe this, well, they all agree with this, well, whatever. Why did they? Right?
Yeah,
What
totally.
information were they being fed that led them to agree? What was the culture at the time that led them to not question as much? There's a the problem with debates like this is that oftentimes when it comes to the spirituality thing, there's not a lot of research that goes into the history behind the examples that they're using, but also, oh gosh, what was my other point? I just brain farted so bad. It's not just the history and the point and the context of everything, but yet it's all so complicated and it's also personal, and that's what makes it really difficult to have a debate about or a really pleasant conversation about, is because everybody gets so personal. It's like, well, if you don't like me because of, well, I believe that this flying spaghetti monster was for realsies and not just a joke, how can I give you any respect in this conversation? And I'm just going to be defensive.
Yeah, of course.
And
there's no risk of that with me because I was like not religious for most of my life. So
well, that and like
yeah,
you've maxed out your charisma. You've got all your conversation stats up. You can totally weasel your way into a really pleasant, good conversation that somebody was not planning to have today.
Did I? I thought you wanted to talk about it. It seemed like
no. I did.
Okay.
I'm just saying that you have that power.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you're I think. It's a good thing. I think it's a really good thing to talking to you is kind of like because you're so open and pleasant and just happy to be here. Nothing ever feels like you're trying to, when the conversation gets heavy, it's clear that you're not trying to like start a fight or gotcha moment or whatever. There's no undercurrent of bad faith. It's literally just, how you doing today? Let's talk about God. I made a sandwich earlier. It was very good.
Well, because it's like, I don't know, I he should have seen what this did for me when I was dating. Was just like getting people to just talk about really personal stuff. I've been told that I can do that, and I don't. It's funny though, because it's not like I'm like, oh, this is a chance to unwrap the present of this person's mind. Instead, I'm just like, oh, cool, that's a cool thought. Let's go down that road.
Mm-hmm. Because it's very genuine.
Yeah, well, I have a weird thing where I don't necessarily clearly see a distinction between appropriate or inappropriate conversation as much. Not even from like a Aspergery way. It's just more like, well, this person's clearly thoughtful, so they probably would want something interesting and challenging to talk about.
Well, you're good at reading people, and I think also there's a degree of I'm not going to speak to how this was for you when you were younger, but like we're adults, and like if I didn't want to talk about this, and I could just say like, let's change the topic, right? Like I could literally
Yeah.
just put a foot down. It's like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, no, totally. And I honestly, like, when you started talking about faith and religion and cults, I was like, oh, I've been thinking a lot about this recently. So when you started talking about it, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I want to. But I'm also happy to segue into cults if you want, because I've seen some pretty good cult documentaries.
Whew, yeah. Okay. All right. So.
and I bet you have too. So I want to know.
Oh man. Okay. Okay. This is gonna be a weird train of thought here, but I've been thinking about it a lot recently.
Sure.
And the thought process started with Batman. Okay. I promise.
Most things do.
And I had this conversation a little bit with my chat last night or yesterday at some point. But I started watching Batman the Animated Series way too young. There is, I don't know if you've watched it much as an adult, but like there's a lot of like guns and violence, and occasionally there's a little bit of blood, and the topics are all really heavy. A lot of the villains are people who are only villains because they're either mentally ill, have this huge ego and narcissism problem, or they're addicted to drugs and they just can't stop. Like Man-Bat is a scientist playing around with DNA, and he turned it into a drug that turned him into a bat, but it was really addictive and he loved it, and that's why he's Man-Bat. And
that old chestnut.
I know. And so we have a home video somewhere with my parents. I think my mom probably has it, a little VHS of like my mom had a camcorder. She's talking to my sisters and a couple of the neighbor kids, and little 4-year-old me comes toddling out, maybe 5. It's like talking about watching Batman. I'm 4 years old, and I'm talking about how it was funny that Alfred came out in his underwear, and it was very silly. So I was watching this far too young. Upon rewatching, I realized how much of this was like character studies. I swear, this does connect. This definitely connects to what we were going to segue into.
You don't have to worry. I'm on board.
Okay. So every episode, he'll talk about like, well, it's just not how the Joker works, and then we'll get more into how the Joker works. And another episode will be like, watching some guy in a street gang who is the mob boss who's about to be replaced by a younger, more successful person, and Batman's trying to plead with his better side to stop being a mob boss, give him all the information, and stop crime a little bit, because his own drugs are put his son into rehab, and his wife left him for it. These are things that I learned in the episode. This is not stuff I had to research afterwards. So I'm a little kid watching this episode. I remembered this one. This mob boss watched his brother get run over by a train. They're not really hiding that. It's a huge plot point.
I know the episode. It's great.
It's a good one. It's a really good one. Yeah, they're Catholic. Really, it's a cartoon on Kids WB, and they're Catholic.
Yeah.
And, but so many of these shows, these episodes, this show specifically, and then, I was watching a lot of, like, Samurai Jack as a kid, and a bunch of other stuff, are about people and being alive and the things that you have to deal with different personalities and different, situations and stuff. So at a young age, I was really interested in this, which is why it was really not shocking until I started looking back at it when I started learning about cults. And it was like, so we moved to Simi Valley. I was 7 years old, and one of the first things I learned about Simi was A, it's radioactive. By the way, I'll segue into that later. B, it's right nearby Box Canyon, which is where the Manson Ranch is. It's right there. Oh. And so I went on to learn about that. Maybe way too young. And I thought that was fascinating. Why did they do that? And it just kept growing, eventually getting into, like, there's a lot of cults out here. Scientology is right here. We used to pass the big blue building every time we went to downtown LA to, go have dinner or go do a thing. It's still there. There's a Scientology center within blocks of me. There used to be posters that would go up on my street. Somebody protesting their existence and saying that they use child labor, which they do. And so I just think they're neat, and that's why. It's because of Batman. So.
Oh, okay. That's how it's. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that you had pulled the trigger on it. So that's essentially the connection.
Yeah, that's where it started. It's. I didn't realize that was where it started. I thought it started because I learned about who Charles Manson was, and then I started looking into more stuff like that, and ultimately I started learning more about, like, the Mormons and the Jonestown and all the real big ones. Why am I blanking on this one?
Jones.
Jamestown.
Jamestown. Yeah, the Jamestown massacre.
Yeah. Whew. Okay. That one's rough.
Yeah, they're all really bad. I mean, the Jim Jones one. You ever see the video when they show the bodies after of all the people that drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak?
I don't want to. I might end up doing it at some point, but I've not seen it yet.
You probably shouldn't. It's not great to look at, but I'll tell you that it's essentially like they just walked around with this is like early 90s, late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just hundreds of people who all drank poison and had their kids drink it, and everybody's just dead.
Some of them are shot. Some of they didn't all commit suicide. It was like it's one of the things that you don't necessarily learn right off the bat either when looking into them is that the creator of this cult was such a good sign for people at the time. Like, he was progressive. He wanted to bring the black and white people's cultures together and bring Americans together, and his whole thing. This is what he claimed to want. And he was very much for just really progressive stuff at the time. People loved him. The Democrats loved him because of what he wanted for change and what he promoted with the church and everything, as far as like social change and whatever. And so how much about it do you know? Like, what happened and how it started?
About Jonestown?
Yeah.
I honestly, I might have learned about it and just forgot, but I'm going to say I don't remember anything from it.
Okay. So this kid was preaching from a young age. Like, he got interested in all sorts of things when he was like 12, and he was starting cults when he was like 12. Like, he was literally had all the kids coming to him for spiritual advice and doing things, and he was fascinated by it because his own mother was often gone. He was a very neglected kid, but his neighbor, who he loved dearly, was extremely religious and would take him to churches, and he eventually started going to every single one in town to better understand what's going on. And what he learned from them was not camaraderie and the love of your fellow man and the things that we were just saying were really good about the church or good about spirituality, but it was the fact that he could very easily control people. He would use his charismatic powers for bad. He was very manipulative. And so he started this church. He started to invite people of all sorts of different races to join him, which was fantastic for the time, And he felt maybe a little persecuted because as he was gaining control over these people, he started doing all the typical cult stuff, which was things like, give me all your money and let me marry your child and, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it was maybe that one specifically. I can't remember the exact details, but it was a lot of like, heavy stuff that they wanted. And so people had started to leave and escape. But by this point, they were also known in the public eye. There were a lot of politicians who were down. They were like, yes, this is great. We love this for America. Can we talk to you? Can we, whatever. So when people started to leave and try to call him out and whistleblow, like, hey, this place isn't great. He's, using us for labor and stuff. And like, this is really bad. We're being abused. We're being told if we don't do certain things, we'll get put into like the box or whatever. Like, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. And which is when he started feeling, okay, they're going to start to investigate us. We should leave. Where can we leave? This place looks good. So they all went into Guyana, I think. And
In Africa?
was it Africa or South America? I think it was South
Oh,
America.
I don't know. I don't know where Guyana is. I have no idea. Sorry,
Yeah.
go on.
So they went there, and they created Jonestown. They had a deal with the local government. They were allowed to be there. And some other people started reaching out to American governments, like representatives, and saying like, "Hey, it's really bad though. It's like really bad though." And the government, the government was like, "Well, they are still our citizens. We should send somebody to go check them out." So, a representative, I want to say from California. I don't actually remember what state he was from, but he decided to go in good faith. He brought camera crew with him and himself, and they went down there to go meet the,
Oh no.
yeah. And this is where it started. They go down, they meet up, they see the sermons, they see the people, they're working, they're happy, they're so happy. We're so happy all the time. It's great. And a lot of the families that were there were in it, like really in it. But there were a few that weren't, and you would get punished if you showed that you weren't. And somebody, as the representative was leaving, and this was he wasn't just like some guy coming as like, I'm here for America. He literally was in the government to some political extent, like it was his job. Somebody slipped him or one of the people with him a note basically saying, please take me with you. It's really bad. And it got found out. And so Jim Jones, or whatever his name was, cut the visit short, and the representative agreed to take a few families with him and see who he could fit. There were other people who snuck in to try to leave at the same time. And then there was a shootout, and the representative was shot and killed. And then the suicide thing happened. And not everybody wanted to do it. Not everybody wanted to take it. And some of the people were forced to. It's really dark. It's really, really dark. Some of them were shot. Some of them were forced. And there's, it's really grotesque. But it happened. And it exists. Yeah. And that's what's fascinating about it.
Oh, no. Listen, cult documentaries are extremely apparently they're like a huge thing on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Where they're like, they've acknowledged, like, okay, clearly people have an interest in this. So, like, I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, is that the most recent one you've seen? Was about that?
No. I listened to a podcast called Killer Psyche, which is an excellent one because it's not salacious. She's not trying to turn this into entertainment. She's not, playing it up for drama or anything. She is oh gosh, what's her name? I know this. Candace DeLong. She was she's an ex-FBI psychoanalyst and professional psychiatrist, similar within that field. And her whole show is, who was this person or what was this event, and what led up to it, what came after it, what was the part that everybody knows about, and how does this all feed together into one coherent, this is what happened. And she's excellent. And her thing on Jamestown, whatever it was called, is a bit more in depth than mine. She does not mince words. She does try to avoid talking about certain things where it's unnecessary, like you don't need to know the specifics of somebody's abuse except to where it affected things. So she's really good about that. It's just very informative. And one of the things I've come to realize is that the same things that feed into a cult is everywhere. All that same kind of manipulation and control and whatever is not limited to spiritual groups. It's everywhere. There are political groups. There are cliques in high schools. There's, cult of two is a real phrase for a reason, And I think that's partly where that fascination maintains is that the fact that you can just walk outside and look at somebody and say, you're in an MLM. You're in a cult. I'm so sorry.
An MLM is, which one is that?
Multi-level marketing.
Oh, yeah.
Like Sensi and Tupperware used to be one. Knife Co.
It's so crazy.
Yeah,
It's
right.
it's so nuts, like pyramid schemes where there's like a so okay, that's really interesting. One that I saw, I'm sure you've heard of or seen Going Clear about
Oh yeah.
Scientology.
Hmm.
That's a great one where the guy, a bunch of people talk about like their experience of like when they finally like reached a certain level of awareness and they got to read this book, and
Hmm.
then they in a room with the book and they're like, wait, is this for real? Like you're telling me that aliens crashed into a volcano in an airplane? Like
Hmm.
what? And that's why I'm depressed.
I think.
Um,
Sorry, go on.
but I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no, you
But
did.
the one that I saw, we saw two recently that were both really good.
Hmm.
We saw them both last year. They were both frightening. So since I'm a little older than you, I'm old enough to remember when the Heaven's Gate thing happened, like live.
Yeah, that's still a thing.
The Heaven's Gate cult is
Yeah, they're
still a
not
thing.
dead. They're still a thing. It's not big, but they're still there.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know. Oh, I know there's a few. Yeah, at the end of the documentary, they show there's a few that are still alive. But
Yeah.
that was. I remember being like maybe 8 or 9 years old. Cat, stop meowing. Just come here. You want to sit in my lap? Come here. He's just complaining.
He's gonna
Just come
sit on your
here.
lap. He's gonna slide down. He's gonna scratch up your knees, and he's gonna run away like he was meant to do that. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It's just
oh,
you're
yeah.
a
This
cat
is what I
owner.
wanted. This is what he'll say.
You let this happen. Welcome to the club.
I remember being like 8 or 9 and watching the live feed on like Fox News or something when they were walking around the inside of the house.
Oh God.
And I remember very clearly the image. I was like 7 or 8, and I remember having like legit terror when I realized what it was that they were showing the sneakers underneath the blankets of all the people in the beds. Because remember how they all wore the same Nikes?
Yeah.
And that was like a famous joke for years that they all like that the people were joking about putting it in a Nike ad that like all the Heaven's Gate people like went to outer space, quote unquote, in their. But they were just showing all the beds with the blankets on top and just the sneakers coming out, and they were explaining like all these people drank like cyanide.
That's awful.
Believing that they were going to be picked up by aliens and finally go to space. And seeing the documentary then like 30 years later and seeing everything leading up to that was so sad. And
It
was
is.
just like because here's the thing with cults, the biggest thing that I see, the pattern that I was noticing is that it's this rare combination of 3 major factors, which is narcissism, extreme charisma, and a delusional, like psychopathic mind. And when you get those 3 in one person, or in the Heaven's Gate situation, it was 2 people. It was a man and a woman who led the cult together.
What was it? Something in Bo. Peep, Bo and Peep? No.
Yeah, they had names like that. But they all had names that were like not their real names.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but yeah, it was a man and woman who started the cult together in the 70s, and then she died of just old age, and he kept going, and like it got worse and worse because she was kind of a stabilizing. I mean, she was nuts too, but she was like a little more stable than him in terms of like, let's not castrate ourselves, which is something he wanted to do, and I think he actually did it.
Yeah, a couple people did.
Yeah, and then I think after the first 2, they like stopped because they were like, okay, some of us may not survive this.
A lot of blood there. You need that.
Yeah, it's so terrifying. But
yeah.
But that was something I noticed in all these cult documentaries, that you have one leader who's really charismatic. You get a lot of people that are looking to belong into something, and so they're willing to get pulled into this person's insanity. That one was scary because in the end, it's really beautifully directed. Like after they talk about the mass suicide, they show the real people, like footage of them, like on camera, like the day before they all did it, when they're all talking to the camera being like, yeah, we're all going to go to space together, it's going to be so great, and they're like, and how they all shave their heads to look the same, and they're playing that song Save Me, it's like I forgot, Jillian Welch is one of those country singers sings it. It's like a very sad emotional song about a woman who's like, just help me out.
Yeah.
And she's playing that song, showing all their faces. and how they just all of them just needed intervention and needed help.
Yeah.
And but the other one that so I recommend that documentary. It's very good. But the
Mhm.
other one, which is also really good, which is I think on Netflix, is Mother God. Have you heard of that one?
Yes, I have. Uh,
Okay, you haven't seen it yet?
is that the one with she mummified herself in her own room?
Yeah. Well, oh man,
Sort of.
it's no, yeah. Like I realized, like, oh, she's almost right, and then I realized that the truth is actually worse. um,
Yeah. No, it's
yeah,
I
yeah.
I I'm gonna let you finish, but I just want to I was kind
No,
of
fine.
following that before that documentary came out. I
Yeah,
came
cool.
across her. I forget why, but there was a YouTube channel that focused on her, and then they also showed the Dr. Phil with her mother and her sister trying to get her to come home, and
Yeah, the intervention. Yeah.
yeah. So I was really surprised when I got news of her, and it was like, oh, she's not just dead, but she's like been dead. That was
No, yeah,
that was
yeah.
gnarly. So please go on.
No, no. I remember so I saw about it the same time you did, and it was like on a police show with the cops walking into a house and seeing the mummified body.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it was
yeah.
like, oh man, these guys are nuts. And then years later, the documentary about how that happened is that's the perspective that I had on it, was like this was a crazy true crime case of like these people believe that they were like preserving the body of a deity. um
Yes.
but the documentary about it is just like she was just like, it was darkly comical
Yeah.
because she's like, why would anyone believe this was God? Like the whole idea was that she convinced all these people that she was actually the creator of the universe.
Yeah.
And it's darkly comical because she's not terribly bright. Like when she talks, you can tell she's like not that thoughtful, and because she's like kind of drunk all the time.
Yeah.
But they keep rationalizing it as her having like, like there's scenes where the people in the cult are like, oh, Mother God, she's communing with the galactic spirits, and then it just shows her like passed out on the couch drunk, and
Yeah.
it's like darkly, it's like really funny. Like I was
Yeah.
laughing
It's like
hysterically because I was
cosmic.
like, yeah, it's just like such hilarious. Like, how dumb are you to not see that this person is clearly just like a party chick with a cult around her? But
It's really
it gets,
upsetting too.
yeah,
The
and it gets really
abuse.
scary at the end because the whole thing of her being mummified was that. Well, should I not spoil it for you? Or are you gonna watch it? You
Oh,
haven't
I've
seen it
seen
yet.
it. I'm very very aware of that one.
Oh,
The
oh,
love
you
is it's the
okay?
love is one cult, right? Like,
Yeah, Love Has Won. Yeah. So
oh
if
man.
anyone who doesn't know, basically the last few months of her life, she was dying of like alcohol poisoning because she was drinking so much. But they were convinced that her body was transcending into like a higher plane of existence or whatever. So they kept giving her colloidal silver, which they thought would cure her pain, but it was the thing killing her. So her body turns blue,
Yep.
like literally, like her whole body turns blue. She gets really skinny to the point where she can't walk. She gets so anemic she can't talk anymore.
It's
She's
really
just like this
sad.
shriveled up, and it's like really upsetting. That she basically slowly ended her own life. Just when it was like she didn't have to die like that,
Mm-mm.
And yeah, and the people in the cult, like they end up doing time because they tried to transport her body over state lines, which is like obviously illegal. You can't just take a
Yeah.
dead body and drive on a country road.
I'm
Like,
I'm a little
anyways.
sad that that's all some of them got like jail time
Oh
for. Like,
yeah, I agree.
especially like her husband, ex-husband. They got the long hair. Like he was something.
Oh, he was such an asshole.
I think he knew exactly what he was too. I think that everything he did was an act.
You think he's a con man who just
I
like saw him? Yeah.
Yeah, he saw his opportunity. It was a really
I don't
good
know.
one.
I mean, I honestly can't tell with him. Like he's so hard to read because I was like, he seems like a believer at some points,
Mm-hmm.
but then I was like, I don't know. He's also like got a bit of a wily criminal look to him, where I could imagine him because like, when he first arrives in that scene, it's kind of, again, it's darkly comical because it's all these like hippie woo woo cultists, and then this
Mm-hmm.
dude comes in who's like a total alpha
Yeah.
bully, and he's just dominates all these other people.
Yep.
Like he just controls that. He just immediately dominates them because he's like kind of threatening and kind of scary, and all these like these like strung out like culty hippie lovey-dovey guys are like, oh god, he's so aggressive, and he just
He's so
like,
masculine.
yeah,
Ah.
no, he is, and he's not a good guy, but he does have a like very masculine energy where you can imagine everybody just being like, I don't want to fuck with him. And she being the leader and being like, yeah, he's in charge with me, and so it's like she's kind of giving him a lot of power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that dude. I remember how they build him up in the documentary, where they're like, he doesn't appear till like the 3rd or 4th episode, and it's like they show people in the cult being like, yeah, he's that guy. That guy's the worst, and they play that scary music.
Yep. And you see him, you're like, okay, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
He looks like.
And I remember laughing with Malka because I was like, God damn it! I was like, I work out every day of my life, and I try to eat healthy, and this dude who's like a cultish meth head still has a better physique than me. I was like, how is this possible? I was so annoyed because he's like, he like, you know, he has good skin, and he's like, he looks reasonably healthy, and I was like, he's been doing meth. He still has all his teeth. It's like, you know. So I was like, God, here I am. I'm like running 2 miles a day.
I'm sorry, but you know what you have to do now. This is how it starts. Yeah. Segue. Speaking of meth, have you ever heard of? She's a comedian. She's fantastic. What's her name? Jessica Reed, I think. Hold on, let me double check.
That sounds familiar.
1 second. Not Eid. There's an R in Reed. Jessa Reed. Okay. Jessa Reed. This is not something I recommend playing on stream because it's very graphic. But she's a stand-up comedian, and she's absolutely hilarious. She's fantastic. But she pulls a lot of her what's it called? Content from her own life, and there was a not insignificant amount of her life where she was addicted to meth and homeless. And so she talks about a lot of the things that affected her while she was on it, the things that she tried to do, and how she handled herself, and all through the lens of somebody who has been healing and no longer is using and is you know, just doing better every day. Looking back on it, I go like, guys, I really believed that the dead owl was like not only alive, but like my best friend. My best friend. I brought this owl carcass with me everywhere.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's dark, but her telling it and her laughing at it with you is really just like, you can't make this up. Why would you? It's horrendous.
Yeah, why would you? Is a great question. What would motivate someone to create this story?
Yeah, there's no glory in it aside from the fact that she's walking away from it and doing better now as a person. And she looks great, you know. So if you've got time later, I definitely recommend it, because if you want to ever have the best anti-drug campaign ever in your life, watch her stand up.
Oh God, yeah, I would imagine. That's amazing, that level of honesty.
Mm-hmm.
For her.
Yeah, I think she's great. She has a wonderful interview with Bert Kreischer on his what's it called? What's his podcast called? Anyway, he's got a podcast on his YouTube channel, and they have a great conversation.
Bert Kreischer's an interesting guy.
He is.
He's surprising because he it's like, why is this guy famous? And then it's like, no, he's got kind of an interesting appeal to him as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I think I'm gonna go eat something, and then I gotta run some errands.
Okie dokie.
Is it okay if we cut this at 2 hours?
Yeah, I think that's great. I gotta start getting ready for work sometime in the next half hour or two, so I'm probably gonna dip in. But I had a wonderful conversation, or 5, with you, and I'm glad that I was able to finally get back to talking to you again, because it's been a little while.
Yeah, I'm so glad you made the time. This was really fun. So let's try to do this more regularly. We were doing it like.
What? I'm sorry, you're cutting out all of a sudden.
I'd be down to do it like once a week if you're around, kind of like I do with Dan. Yeah,
definitely. So with this new comic work, which I'm officially on to pencils, layouts are done, and well, layouts for the first 20 pages are done. So I'll be streaming more often. And I'm planning on doing so probably again tomorrow. Not Friday,
great.
Possibly this weekend. So yes, once a week I can definitely do. We'll find the time. We'll make it work.
Yeah, no, I'd love that. This was awesome.
Yeah. Then we'll get really dark. It'll be great. We'll get progressively darker every single time.
I mean, listen, we brushed on religion. That was like the tip of the iceberg. We can talk about more cult stuff. We could true crime.
You know what?
I'm really into true crime. We can talk about.
We can.
JCS Criminal Psychology. I'm going to recommend you watch that.
They just messed up. Their latest video, they took it down, but they got rid of a lot of the original team, and they stopped using the original voice actor, and they've moved on to AI. They dropped the ball hard. You should try Dave's Lemonade.
No, I didn't even know that. I was watching their video today.
Yeah, it just happened literally within the last like month and a half. It's not to sound like so weird about it, but Will and I are both pretty bent up about it. We're really mad. We loved that
They're
one.
the best channel on YouTube. They're amazing.
I've got a few for you if you want. There's some really good ones.
I'm looking at their videos now, JCS. I don't see it. Is it a different YouTube? Is it a different JCS Criminal Psychology? I don't see it here.
Nope. They took it down. The backlash was so bad. Everybody hated it. And they spent money too. They had this like really cute animated opening, and they like hired people for it, and it looked great. They didn't have to do that, but then the case that they were working on for it was just mind-numbingly bad. Like, it didn't really fit in with what they'd been doing. It was really simple. It was just two dumb people did one dumb thing, and there wasn't anything really to analyze, and it just felt like it was written by AI, and it was. And then the voice was AI, and then at the end of it, they stopped like 45 minutes in to say, and now I'm going to hand this off to my co-whatever, and you're like, your co-whatever. So a new voice comes on, and it's an AI female version of JCS's voice. And it's just like, okay, so you're trying to move on to a new look here. It was really awful.
Why were any of these changes necessary? I don't understand. Because
great question.
And I like, okay, so JCS Criminal Psychology, for anyone who doesn't know, they were like the big dogs. They were like the one of the first best YouTube channels that were showing actual police interrogations and like breaking down police interrogations, showing like how they catch killers. It was awesome, and like with great commentary from someone who seemed like he himself was a detective. Would you agree with that assessment?
It did seem like that. I learned after this that he was in fact a hired voice actor. And they had a team that was doing research and reaching out to professionals and stuff, and I think they wanted to take the lazy way out. They wanted to get more bang for their less of a buck.
But what's weird is that their videos kept getting problems. They kept getting flagged, and like they kept having. And I was like, why? When all these like Dreading and all these other YouTube channels have like they have so many videos, they don't have that many issues, but then JCS is like, I think maybe because their interrogations, their analysis was so in depth that it's kind of like giving people too much info.
He kind of didn't skimp on the language too much either too. Like, I think Dreading also tries not to. I started doing his Patreon recently, and like he definitely uses a bit more like appropriate language, add appropriate language on YouTube.
Yeah, but I like Dreading. I watch almost all their stuff, but I think JCS had a particular flavor that I really liked because it was like, I like the voice acting. I like the analysis. I like the fact that they didn't do, because Dreading is great, but they do this thing where sometimes he's like, and here's 4 hours of the interrogation unedited. And it's like, someone else can enjoy that. For me, I like that JCS would like
sum up.
Yeah, it would be the highlights. It'd be like, okay, and at this point in interrogation, they bring, I don't need to see like every, you know, because eventually you just stop paying attention. Even if it's on in the background, you just stop listening. I mean, for me, it's like that. So,
I'm the freak who likes the 4 hours of it.
Yeah, I figured you might be.
I want to hear what the detectives are hearing. It's mind-numbing sometimes.
Yeah, well, oh my God, some of them are so cringy.
I know.
When someone's clearly guilty and they're like, the one I just watched before you and I started was the girl who hired. She was like an Asian girl. I think her parents were like really strict Chinese family.
Oh, Jen something.
Yeah, Jennifer or Stephanie or one of those things. And she hired. She basically had her boyfriend like kill her parents. And she was so unprepared. Like, even though she's this highly educated person, it just shows how many people don't understand how easy it is to get caught in a lie when you're doing a complex crime.
Yeah.
It like that, and the guy. Anyways, but there's a lot of them where like the person. Yeah, there was another guy. I remember Dreading covers it, where it's the guy who again killed his own parents so he could take their inheritance or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, and he was like, he kept in his journal talking about how he was so much smarter than other people.
He made a to-do list.
A to-do list, yeah. He was like. He was like, melt bodies in bathtub. It's like, bro, what's wrong with you? What an idiot. Yeah. And you can tell Dreading he enjoys pointing out how stupid killers are because the ego it takes to think you're going to get away with it.
Yep.
That you're some super genius criminal, and it's like how cringy it is that they're all just like, I don't know. I don't know how to describe them. Just there's nothing worse than someone who's stupid but thinks they're smart.
Yes, they're narcissistic. Like, not to be part of the problem of overusing that word, but that narcissism is a real factor in people who think that they can get away with murder.
Yeah, the lack of accountability, the belief in one's own like perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is the appropriate word. There's definitely narcissism. Yeah, but
So, I know you got to get going. I'm going to leave you with a cliffhanger. Here's what we can start off with next week, okay?
Okay.
I will tell you why Simi Valley is radioactive.
Oh, okay. I'm going to bring that up first thing.
Okay, all right, because it's going to be really interesting. You're not going to know anything about it. Don't look it up. Don't cheat. It's getting more popular, so it's good to know.
I'm not going to say anything.
Okay.
I'm not going to look at anything. I don't think I'm going to open my eyes for the rest of the day to avoid learning.
Okay. All right. Cool.
All right. Later, buddy.
See you later, dude. All right. Good talking. Let me know when you're free.
Okay. I will.
All right. Ciao.